Hello, everyone. Good evening. It is Wednesday, January 10th, 7:30. We're going to start our meeting. We'll start with the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. I feel like there's a little feedback, but I also, Jesse, are we okay? We are? Okay. Feeling. Say that again? I'm okay. I'm used to like having to speak right into it. So it seems, and we're okay, right, Jamie? Okay. I'm sure she, no, he's online looking at it. Okay. The agendas are somewhere on the chair for those in the audience that want it. Thank you everyone for coming tonight. We are both on, as always, on Zoom and coming to you. We are going to do announcements because we have some announcements. We don't have to, but we will. We're going to start with Trustee White. Good evening.
Is it on?
Yeah, you know, it's really.
Oh, it's on. So Monday is national holiday, Martin Luther King Jr. Day. And this weekend, there are a couple of events pertaining to that. One is on Saturday, January 13th, the Cooperative Scholarship Fund raises funds to send kids to provide scholarships for kids who might not otherwise be able to go to college. The theme is In the Spirit of Unity and Service. It's at the high school from 1 to 3 p.m. And it will celebrate unity and service and support the Cooperative Scholarship Fund. It is a fundraiser, so there is a ticket price, but I got my ticket. You can go to Eventbrite for that. And then on Sunday at 5 p.m. at Star of Bethlehem Baptist Church, the Briarcliff Austin Ministerial Association will have its annual interfaith celebration for Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. At 5 p.m. Sunday, January 14th at 5. The keynote speaker will be Reverend Dr. K. English. So that's at Star. That's it.
What's it? It's it. And you? You're good? Gentlemen on this side? Everybody's good? All right. Just a couple of quick things. On January 18th, a must-see event at the Ossining Public Library, which will be showing a documentary called Rosenwald, and it will have afterwards panel discussion by our very own Ossining Village historian, Joyce Shara Cole. It will include a conversation with Rabbi Dina Rosenberg of Congregation Sons of Israel and Althema Goodson of the Ossining NAACP. She's the president. I actually have seen this film a number of years ago with one of the descendants of Rosenwald. It is a fantastic documentary. It's open to everyone, the public. I believe it is free. It is free. It says right here. It's free. It's at our library, and there'll be discussion. It's really worth seeing about the 5,000 schools that were built, single house schools that was built by Rosenwald, who at that time started it, owned Sears, for those of you that remember Sears in its old days. And it's a great story, and it's a story that isn't told very much or taught. And his own family members, because I've gotten a chance to meet one of his descendants, didn't even know that he had donated over 5,000 schools. We happen to have, as I discovered at this screening years ago, two members in our own community who went to those schools and now live here and have just really benefited from the program. So it's highly recommended. There's a lot of events for Martin Luther King Day. It's also coming up Black History Month. It's throughout the county. Too many for us here to mention, but we just wanted to highlight a couple here that are going on. Earlier today, right before this meeting, I had met with not all, but most of the chairs of many of our volunteer committees. We have about 15 of them, and really just want to thank them publicly to all these volunteers who take their time and their brain cells and really contribute to our community on monthly basis and oftentimes even more than that to just make this community better for all concerned. And there's a huge range of committees for those of you that follow. Great suggestions that came out for communication, for engagement, and to try to get more in new volunteers, you know, to bring in a pipeline of volunteers. We're going to hear from a very new chair, 5 days. You've been a chair for 5 days, who will be speaking, and I bring that to your attention because we will change the agenda a bit. We are going to hear first from the Landlord Tenant Relations Committee, Felicia Marquis, Chair, first, and then we will follow the rest of the agenda as prescribed in the agenda. So that's it for me for today. Oh, just a shout out and a word of gratitude, more than one word. We had a major storm. I personally, I don't know about everybody else, was not expecting such a storm last night. I mean, some branches came down, but this village really came through really well. There was one little area that had an outage, but the rest fared well. The flooding was mitigated and the crews were out there. It was great. And the 5 corners, I see Paul. Where are you, Paul? Paul was here 2 minutes ago, our head engineer, but the 5 corners, I was watching today, and I know you were down there, village manager, as they're taking down the old, beaten up, out of date lights, signal lights, and really doing I don't know if they finished the work, but they were moving like pretty quickly, you know, taking down the old lights. They have some signage. It's not an easy thing to do. It's a big project. So very excited that's going to get done soon. So just wanted to update. Oh,
The
the
lights are working.
the lights work. No, the lights are working, but they took down, the new ones are working, and they took down the old, and watching them take that down when, oh, there's Paul.
Yeah.
I was just complimenting the crews on the 5 corners where you were there in the work that's being done. Because, you know, I love that project. So it was great. So we thank everybody, especially after an evening of major storms where, and the sanitation guys were out there picking up all of that wet recycled paper this morning. It did remind me, for the public that's watching it, it really is helpful if you pack things correctly, because it was windy and a lot of that garbage ends up in our waterways because it flows into the streets and down into the Hudson. And so it's really important on these kind of storms that people really pack their things correctly and tie things up correctly. But overall, the village looked great today, so I'm glad nobody was hurt. I'm glad it all worked out. And we are ready to start with the agenda, village manager.
Good evening, everyone. We have a slight change in the agenda tonight. We would like to introduce Felicia from the Landlord Tenant Relations Committee to present. So if you would like to join us.
You do have to speak into it for those on Zoom, but
It's like right in my face. Is that okay? Can everyone hear me all right?
yes.
Okay. First, I just want to thank you for entrusting me as the chair of the Landlord Tenant Relations Council. I'm Felicia Marquis, and an Austining resident, proud to take on this role this year. Speaking of my role, I want to share a story that it means a lot to me. On one of my intakes, I sent out, reached out, I should say. I reached out to one of the building management companies, and they got back to me with their attorney. And I spoke with the attorney, and I obviously told her that I'm not an attorney, and that I highlighted that our volunteer-based mediation approach for the landlord tenant relations council. And she thought it was a great program. The attorney praised our council for effectively resolving disputes before legal actions start. And she also asked if there were any other towns doing something such as this. I wasn't familiar, but it really made me feel really good about my volunteer work here. with the Landlord Tenant Relations Council. I believe, oh, good. As you see here, can turn your attention there. This year, we handled 27 cases, 44 about rent and livability, 56% from smaller 1 to 3 unit private homes. Notably, there has been an uptick in tenants seeking legal advice, and we anticipate this number will continue to rise following the implementation of the Tenant Dignity and Safety House Act from January 1st, 2024. The new legislation empowers tenants to seek recourse in landlord-tenant court for warranty of livability issues. Now, looking ahead, we foresee a raising of rent rates and a need for more Spanish translators services. We propose hiring Jessica Shanine, a qualified court interpreter as needed. Would be helpful for us to help with translations services. And that kind of leads me over to the budget. We respectively request a $3,000 budget for mediation training and a translator crucial for our council's smooth operation. Additionally, we aim to spread the word. I think it's important that landlords and tenants should know where that we're here for them and to try to resolve their disputes before they go into court.
We're gonna let you finish your whole presentation and then we ask questions, because I know this is your first time.
This is my first time. So I'm almost finished.
No, we're not rushing you, but I know you're looking for an answer, so I just wanted, we should have said this in the beginning. Go through your presentation. If you need, I don't know if you have the pages, just let Jamie know to flip the pages.
This is my presentation.
Okay,
This is about
that's fine.
of the year of the 27
Great.
Intakes. As you can see here, there's from 2018 on to 2023. There was a hike in rent
Right.
issues of 44%, and also heat repair and whatnot on occupancy issues jumped up from 13% in 22 to 44% in 23. And most of these at the units down at the bottom were for private homes, 3 to 1 units, about 56%.
Okay,
You have
Thank
any
you.
questions?
I'm sure. I'm gonna let maybe your liaison start with any comments or questions, and we will also answer your budget questions. We hear you. And I met you a little bit at our 5 o'clock meeting, but I'm gonna let the liaison start, and then I'm sure that there are comments and questions on the board.
I'll do my best to answer them.
It will be not questions on mine. Spanish, Jesse. Is that better? Yeah.
Let's move that, move it that way and away from me, because I think the mics are so close that they're creating.
Can you still hear me, Jesse? Okay. Thank you very much for the presentation. Thank you for being part of this landlord. I think it's critical for us to have that. That was established many years ago. Then Trustee Levin, Rika, and Trustee Quantel were far essential to revamp that. And unfortunately, we were trying to be ahead of the issues that you guys are encountering now more than previous years.
Yeah.
So I think it's essential for the work that you guys have done so far. It's been a struggle for us to get Spanish speaking members on this particular board, which I think is essential based on the diversity that we have in our community, and essentially for that. Yes, one of the numbers I didn't realize the height to 56%, and obviously from 2018 to now, as I want to say double, pretty much from that and the 1 and 3 families, which on our end, I'm sure Maddie sees that as well on the bond department, and that is a problem just in that sense itself. I'm gonna let my colleagues ask you questions in regards, and until we can go from there. But I want to thank you for your first presentation. Many more to come, obviously, and so I thank you for your service.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Bob, any comments or questions? Dana, shall we go over to you?
I would just like to say thank you because what you guys do really affects people's lives.
Sure does.
And you do it on a volunteer basis. And it is a kind of an unusual program. And I think that if more people knew about it, and especially, you know, maybe there's some type of outreach we can do to the Spanish speaking community. I think that, you know, you should have any help you need in the meantime in order until you have, you know, someone on the board who can do that. But I know people who have been on it. One of my friends has been on it and has been the chair, and I know that they do a lot of good work. So are you a landlord, a tenant, or neither?
I'm neither.
Okay. Well,
But I
thanks for
live in
doing this.
Austin.
Thank you very much. And I know especially it's just going to get more and more important, and it's going to be, you're going to get more and more cases. So
More and more cases and just the heartstrings of some of these stories, and just trying to help them, you know, dispute it with, you know, either on the landlord side or the tenant
no, it's
side.
not easy. You're
Yeah.
dealing with a landlord and a
Yes.
tenant, neither of whom may be particularly happy.
Right. And some
So it's delicate, you
It's
know,
very
so thank you very much.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. I echo Dana's sentiments and the sentiments of my colleagues as well. My question is more specific in terms
Okay.
of the data. So you spoke about the jump in rent disputes.
Issue, yeah, rental,
Yep.
yeah.
So that's noteworthy. I also noticed there was a precipitous drop from 33% to 1% in terms of lease renewal. So I'm
Yeah.
also curious about that kind of trend that you're seeing. Do you have any sense, recognizing the 5-day tenure?
Yeah, thank you.
Of why the numbers have moved in this way
From the,
from the
The
23 to
release-
the 44, but especially from the
You know-
33 to the 1 in lease renewal.
I can give let's see, I have spoken to one intake recently this year and expect to get 12 more from the same building because their rent is going up like a ridiculous amount. Because, and the, you know, new owners, sometimes when things, you know, when it's a new owner coming in and they want to revamp the property and things like that, then they try to go to, you know, the renters that have been there. Some of them have been there for a long time, and paying, you know, essentially the same rent for so many years. And then you get a new owner in and they want, you know, they need or want to hike up the rent. And it puts a stress on the person that's been there, whether they're a senior on a fixed income, or a, you know, family. Yeah, so I think in some cases, I can't say for sure that that's all the reason of the hike and that percentage, but I imagine that's some of it.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Thanks. So, we met earlier, so it's a pleasure. You've been on this council for a year and now, and there's a couple of experienced people, so hopefully that is helpful.
Very.
And we're going through a post-COVID, expense rise, so there's reasons why rents are going up, but that's not helpful to anybody, on the tenant side. Because I don't think incomes have gone up in the same rate. The costs of goods have gone up. So we thank you for that. So you asked about budgets and you
I
were
did.
looking right to us on that. I don't remember if we budgeted from last year what they asked for. My mind says 2,500. It is
Right.
3,000. So it is budgeted for. Yeah, I thought it was 20. So you do have.
We do have, okay, so
yeah.
it continues. for
Steve had asked, the
2024.
previous chair had asked, and I think the year before we also for a whole bunch of things. So it sounds like it's the same amount, not an incremental. And the translator is a very recent thing. I actually looked, because the court does have a staff member or two. And, you know, that's one way to help, like document reading and maybe we'll work with that. And I think I sent you an email. So we'll look into that and come up with solutions. There is an 800 number that is used. Gentlemen, it's just there's an echo in the room, so I could actually hear you guys, if you don't mind. So we actually, there's an 800 number, but I've been told it's okay. But these are sensitive issues, you know what I mean? So, you know, there's the numbers you call and they'll translate for you, but you have to make sure, you have to set up a time. And oftentimes I think you guys call just to try to catch somebody to, So we'll work on it and we'll try to get more of that, but the budget's answer is yes, right now, I believe is the right answer.
We're gonna triple check.
Yeah, well, they'll check it, they'll just email you.
As far as translation, having a translation service, it would be more, I think, for mediation purposes in some cases, not really for them to reach out one-on-one, all the time.
Right.
And it would be nice to be able to have like a.
Can you speak directly into the microphone, please?
I don't know, can you hear me? It sounds like it went off. The battery go? Oh, I turned it on and off. Hello? There we
Oh,
go.
now it's okay.
Oh, yeah.
And we should get no mics.
I thought these were them.
They are new.
Talk to the
He's
mayor.
being sarcastic. Okay, well, listen,
Thank
thank
you.
you. Appreciate all the work and welcome.
Thank you so much.
Obviously, we have an attorney with you that's on staff, so
Yes.
Tanksley works with you. We have the liaison. It's good to hear like an update. All the committees do once a year. This is yours, the
Great.
kickoff of the first one. But that doesn't stop you from emailing, either Stuart or Sonia or.
Okay.
Asking for what you need.
What I need. Thank you so much. I
Thank
can
you.
already think of a few emails that I can send
Oh,
them
good.
tomorrow.
We love emails.
Thank you.
Thank
I
you very
also
much.
wanted to say thank you to everyone here too, because your service also is very, very valuable to our community. And
Thank
I
you.
appreciate that too.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you
you.
so much.
Good night.
Have a really great evening.
Thank you.
You're
Okay.
welcome to stay.
Yeah, you're welcome to stay for another couple of hours.
I would love to, but
It's-
I do need to leave. I'll be back.
Thank you. Next on our agenda, we have Best Buds dispensary presentation. Maddie, do you want to provide a little bit more background?
I sure can. Good evening, everybody. So I want to welcome up Dr. Mohit Sood, and then Mr. Weiss is here as well. Yeah, so you guys can come on up to the microphone. Jamie has your presentation. Basically, by way of context for the Board of Trustees and the public, the board in the Village of Ossining decided, I think it's 2 years ago now, to allow adult use cannabis dispensaries to be sited in the Village of Ossining. Back in, I think it was the end of November, you heard a presentation from a group who's looking to bring a dispensary to a property on Lower Main Street. This is our second one. Dr. Sood had given a presentation to our planner, Valerie Manastra, our building inspector, Joe Augustinelli, and myself as sort of a pre-app meeting. So seen some assets of this before, but we are ready to turn it over to the Board of Trustees. Just as a reminder, the process that we've been following is we ask for a 60-day extension on all of these applications through the Office of Cannabis Management. Unfortunately, because of some schedule things on our end, on the applicant's end, and then also the holidays, we're getting somewhat close to the end of that 60 days. So that letter is going to have to go out this week. So similar to what we did on the last application, we'll draft a letter based on this presentation and the board's feedback. And then we can send it to the Office of Cannabis Management before the end of the week. So with that, I will turn it over to.
I just want to add, because I've gotten a couple of calls, I want it to be very clear that the state manages these enterprises, not the village. These are not village specific to Ossining. This is like, I guess, liquor is managed by the state of New York. So just a reminder for those of you that may not remember the many conversations we've had about cannabis. So if you're going to speak, it has to be into the mic because we have people on Zoom. So who is presenting here?
I was just going to enter my appearance. My name is Mickey Weiss. Thank you for having us here tonight. I am counsel to Best Buds, who is seeking to your support to locate a retail dispensary at 50 North Highland Avenue in the village. With that, I'll talk it over to Dr. Sood.
All right, thank you, Mickey. Hello, board.
Hello.
I just wanted to introduce myself. My name is Mohit Sood. I'm the founder and sole owner of Best Buds 13 LLC, and I applied for an adult use cannabis dispensary license with the NY Office of Cannabis Management, the OCM, on November 17th. And I'm here today.
You okay? You got it?
uh,
I know.
yeah,
It's
Get new stamps.
I got it.
Oh, I can never see. Okay,
All right, is that good?
it's all good. No worries. Not a test.
All right, so I'm here to present proposed business and demonstrate my commitment to running a compliant and safe operation while being a contributing member of the Village of Ossining, our very own Village of Ossining, right? And good thing is the OCM has responded. I got an email today, so it looks like I might be in the first batch, which is really nice. So if you could go to the next slide, please. Yeah. Thank you. All right, so first off, I want to give you a little bit of background of who I am and what I bring here to this operation and the village. I'll give you a little bit of background of my work history. I got my doctorate in pharmacy over 20 years ago in Boston, and I've opened, operated, managed, and ran 3 successful pharmacies, independent retail pharmacies, over the past 20 years or so, and it's a highly regulated field, so it kind of runs parallel with the cannabis space. It's actually more regulated than the cannabis space. So with the retail experience and the regulation experience, I think it's a parallel shift. I also opened a wellness center with my sister, Dr. Monica Sood, some years ago. And that was more of a passion project. Just a quick into it. My father was afflicted with cancer. It happened to be stage 4 when they found it, and he was given 2 to 3 months to live. My sister and I, we want to make life, maybe try to extend it, try to do whatever we can to help fight this, because the conventional medicine had already given him a time frame, short time window. So we opened a wellness center and used a number of different modalities to try to help boost him up from a number of different things, which I could talk to you guys off meeting and explain to you. And cannabis is directly related to helping heal cancer with a number of the side effects that you get. So it really opened my eyes to the benefits of what this could provide for a community, not just for recreational use, but it could actually help people as well. Yeah, so like I said, I have a extensive experience in the regulated retail industries. And I feel confident in my ability to operate a safe, responsible, compliant cannabis dispensary. Next, I want to, if you, next slide, please. Next, I want to touch on community impact. I want to go a little bit into detail on the importance of integrating with the community. I do plan, if and when we're awarded this license, I do plan on moving to town, because all of my businesses, when I started, all the ones I've started, I've moved to town to be part of the local community, because that's how you grow the business and how you can keep your eyes on it and help. I want to identify that we're gonna try our very best to bring tremendous amount of job opportunities to Ossining. But all the businesses that I've been a part of have hired locally. More than 75% of the employees have been local to the community. And so I think that's hugely important, because it helps build camaraderie, it helps build community, and it helps bring everybody together, as long as helping sustain a long-lasting, successful business. I do have a commitment to having a wide range of diverse hiring practices, regardless of race, color, creed, or anything like that. I think yeah, it also helps promote local community. And I also want to also help whatever way we can, right? If the business is doing well, we have to put into the community. So I've already reached out to a couple of charities in town, the food bank being one of them. I got an email back recently, this morning, actually. I just reached out yesterday. And I plan on, I mean, we plan on doing that. I think that's really important, to try to help if we can. So that'll be helping with our time, funds, and energy. Another thing that I want to clarify with community impact is, unlike people might think, opening a cannabis dispensary in a town or a village actually decreases illicit cannabis use and the illicit drug market. So it's actually going to provide probably a safer alternative, because we are going to have good security around the area as well. If you can go to the next slide, please. So this is our proposed signage. You guys, I'm sure are all familiar with the location. It was long-standing, good reputation in town for some time. They're turning it over and the building needs a complete, redevelopment, which I want to do. I want to try to create some beautiful in town that's alluring, that's going to increase the value and increase, people wanting to come to town, to the village. I'm sorry, I meant village.
It's okay. Don't worry about it.
So, when it comes to signage, we're gonna fit with the character of the village. We're not gonna have too much signage, and it is a team effort. So, I mean, I will be depending on you guys for your advice and your guidance, and if everything's going according to plan, right? Because this is gonna be a team project, and we're gonna try to involve the entire community. I also want to identify that people walking outside of the building are not going to be able to see any products inside. We're going to have a step back distance inside of the building where security, where they're going to have to go into, get a security check, and then go into to buy any of the products that they desire. So it'll be obstructive views, essentially. Now, when it comes to parking, I know that could be a big issue with dispensaries. Parking here is good because I was able to identify a location after, searching quite a bit, location that has ample parking. So 12 to 15 spots, and I'm going to see if we could even make more spots available in that space, which would be pretty amazing. I have to. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, if you could change the slides, please, Gene. Thank you.
That's not it.
No, yeah, that's next. Oh, that's fine.
Maybe you don't have, it. Oh, there it is. Maybe that's it. Does that show the parking?
I don't have slides right in front of me. I just go, yeah. So, I think this should be fine. Yeah. So, we're also going to be hiring security guards to be employed using off-duty police officers or certified security professionals during all operating hours. So I'm going to try to have good communication with the police station around here because we want it to be a safe operation. And so hopefully they'll be able to, we're going to have licensed security guards or off-duty police officers helping manage any overflow of traffic and anything with the business itself. The training will be provided to security staff to direct customers away from the store as well. So there's not going to be a large buildup even during busy hours. We could even put inserts in customers' bags asking them to enjoy without disturbing neighbors. And we'll do a number of things to try to help the safety and that there won't be any consumption outside. We're going to make it very clear. Now, there are sometimes some concerns about how during busy times of the day, like there could be rush hours at the facility. If there are, we have a plan to implement a queuing system similar to walk-ins at restaurants, where a name and number will be recorded by the front end staff, direct customers to leave the store and return when they receive a call or text that it's their turn. We're also gonna have like a queuing system, so it should. I don't think traffic should be an issue. Slide 5, please. Yeah, this is actually, we're here. This is the right one. All right, so now when it comes to training, staff training, bud tender training, that's what they're called, bud tenders. Like a bartender, these are called the employees are called bud tenders that are dispensing the cannabis, And we're gonna have strict training programs implemented for all staff, including regular retrainings, similar to continuing education credits. I don't know if anybody here is familiar with the medical industry, but there's these things called continued CE credits in the pharmacy industry and also like in medical for physicians, where you have to continually learn and keep updated on everything that's going on within the industry and how to manage it best. The staff will be trained on a number of the following. They're going to have age verification training, recognizing suspicious or invalid IDs and declining sales to unverified individuals at both entry and point of sale. Incident handling, de-escalating situations, security staff responsibilities, documentation and communication with local law enforcement as needed. Product knowledge related to all product types, formats, classes, their effects, including providing guidance and recommendations for first-time users and addressing common misconceptions. All store procedures like staff handling, opening, and closing activities. And cleanliness is going to be one of our sticking points because I'm a bit OCD in that regard. We're going to be committed to continuous learning and improvement through additional training and retraining, like I touched on before. And I think that being said, I'd like to turn it over to my consulting and security team. Dario from Can Delta could take it away.
Hello, everybody. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Thank you, village council members and community members for joining. Just very briefly, my name is Dario. I'm a senior consultant with Can Delta. We're a national reputable regulatory and scientific consulting firm focused on cannabis. We've been formally engaged by Mr. Sood here, who we've been working closely with on everything from putting together a rock solid application, as well as designing this store with compliance and safety at the top of mind. And so we ensure all of our clients will uphold the highest levels of compliance in pursuing any of these ventures, and ensuring that the community is happy with anything that we put forward. And so we're here to present a little bit about about the designs of the store specifically. So here in the overhead view, if you could just go back to that overhead view, you just had it a second ago. Perfect. Yeah. So this is kind of the overhead view of the what was originally the Austin Bakery. That's going to be on the first floor, which is the primary location. The yellow line will be the site perimeter. There's a little garage there that's that small sort of outcropping at the top left corner. That's not going to be part of it. That goes up to the second floor. The second part of this building, directly above it, where there's that proposed parking lot, the plan is to remove the small buildings there that are currently in place to provide room for about 12 to 15 parking spaces. This is going to be very unique for a retail store, to ensure that there's no additional street parking that infringes upon the sidewalk. And so it'll have ample parking for all of the patrons as well as staff as needed. The entire facility will be enclosed with a state-of-the-art 24/7 visual surveillance system and access control system to ensure personnel, only authorized personnel, have access, as well as an alarm system and on-site security personnel, as Mr. Sood had mentioned. If you could go to the next page, please. So this is a bit of a layout of the inside. So there's going to be a main entrance where after getting age verified, patrons will be allowed to enter. There will be no visualization of any of the products or the retail floor from the exterior of the facility. Once you go inside the retail floor and permitted access, that's where you can do your shopping. Only authorized staff will be allowed to go into the back area of the site to access high value areas such as the storage. This is going to be designed in a manner of multiple layers of security, where the storage is the obviously the most high value and sensitive area at the site. We're going to have a number of different controls throughout the areas in order to make sure that the access is limited to those that are needed. If you could go to the next page, please. This is just a brief outline of the access controls. So there's going to be card readers that monitor the main zones within the site, which will be basically the retail floor, the back area, and then the storage itself. So there will be several layers of credentials that will be required, with only the individuals that need to access those areas that will be permitted to getting in there with their relative credentials. The rest of the doors will be accessed by key lock. As well, there will be a push to exit button to exit from the back area to ensure that there's ample emergency exits. If you go to the next page, please. We're also going to have an alarm system. So we're going to make sure that any of the doors that are pushed ajar without prior authorization will trigger an alarm at all times, especially when there's nobody at the store and it's closed down. This will make sure that there's a ULC rated company that's monitoring the site at all times and is able to contact the authorities as quickly as possible in the event of any kind of break-ins. There's going to be also panic buttons that are behind the POS counters, as well as inside the storage, to make sure that anybody that any of the staff that are working in the case of an emergency can quietly and discreetly contact the authorities as needed. We will also keep the server in the back office space under tight control as well. We'll be keeping at minimum 30 days backup video surveillance footage, potentially even longer than that, up to 90 days, maybe even. Next page, please. This is just the layout of some of our intrusion detection systems. So we're going to be outfitting all of the main doors with door contact sensors to ensure the alarm system. Motion detectors will be strewn across the entire site to make sure that any motion is detected and triggers the alarm. That's mostly it for that page. You can go to the next one. Finally, the camera system. So there's going to be basically complete coverage of every square inch of the inside of the of this space, especially the areas where there is cannabis, to ensure that there's also no blind spots. This will ensure that any emergency situations are well documented, and any kind of situations on the interior or the exterior are captured in both high light and low light conditions. We'll be using infrared cameras. They'll be capable of detecting individuals in the dark as well. Next page, please. It's the layout of some of the perimeter cameras. There may even be other ones depending on how the layout of things like the trees and things like that turn out to be in the end. We want to make sure that every square inch of the exterior perimeter is covered so that anybody approaching that building can easily be identified at all times of the day, including at nighttime. That brings to the next slide that just quickly talks about the exterior lighting. Exterior lighting is very important. Like I said, the cameras will be able to detect and identify people in the dark, but regardless, there are regulations for making sure there's ample exterior lighting, as well as I understand that the village itself is looking for additional lighting during low light conditions. And so with that, we have lighting around the perimeter of the building, which will illuminate the entire perimeter as well. Some of these lights will also be wall shielded as well. That's to prevent the light from creeping any further out into the street or neighboring units, and not to cause any kind of nuisance, and only be able to cover the immediate perimeter. If you can go to the final slide, please. I wanted just to say thank you to everybody for listening to our presentation here today. I do want to express that I've worked with a lot of different operators throughout my time. It might be a little bit biased, but I can say that Mohit is a very responsible individual. He's been preparing very, very hard for this presentation. He wants to make sure that he does everything that the community is really looking for, and so we're really looking for your feedback and open to any questions that you may have for us at this time. I'll turn it back to Mo.
All right, thank you, Dario. And I'm here to address any questions from the village regarding my proposed business. I hope this presentation demonstrates my commitment to running a compliant operation and working closely with the village of Ossining to address any questions you all may have. And thank you so much. And I look forward to being a contributing, positive member of this community and village of Ossining.
Thank you.
Guys.
I'll start from the left. Do you have any questions, Bob? No. Manny?
No.
Okay, Dana?
Skip your board.
Well, I'm going all the way to the right.
I don't-
You can go
that-
first.
Oh, no, this is Rika, man. No, it's her meeting. Oh, please, she's the chair.
Hi.
Hi.
So your current businesses are in New Jersey?
I have, yes.
I looked you up.
Huh?
Sorry, I looked you up.
Yeah, for
Uh,
New Jersey, I have a hospitality hotel in New York, in Schenectady, New York. I just a percentage that I invested with a buddy.
And then how did you happen to choose this location?
Well, my cousin, Dr. Sood lives in Rycliffe Manor, and his wife too, Dr. Sani. They're local. And so I came to visit them, and I was just looking around the area, and I identified this area as potential, and also moving to the area where I have family as well that's why I didn't look in a lot of other boroughs.
You're going to relocate here?
Oh, yeah. When I'm granted when. I'm gonna locate,
Did you buy the property? Or you do plan to, or do you
It's-
hope
it's-
to?
It's in the process right now. It's a lease to purchase. We're just, we have to negotiate once I have feedback from you guys and really from the OCM, which I did get an email today. So it looks like, well, yeah.
And then does it come with that little lot next door with the little buildings you want to take down? Is that part of it, or how does that
No,
work?
those buildings are, the one building of 50, that one's, the one that we're taking over and the parking lot next to it.
Okay,
that's
you
the
had
one-
mentioned taking some buildings down to make more spaces or something?
No, we're not.
Oh, okay.
So there's a parking lot there, but there's a garage, right?
Yeah,
If we took out that little garage,
the garage.
it might be able to add
I
a little bit
see.
more. And there's a little bit that it jets out a bit where their freezer was. I guess they have a large freezer in the back and so it jets out a little bit. If we were able to remove that, but I still have to talk to my civil engineer about that. Because that's, it might be a little bit more of a project, so I might not remove that part. We still have 12, 15 spots, but I'd like to get extra, you know?
So that lot comes with the property?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, okay,
That's part of the property, yeah?
okay. So that, I mean, it's a busy area
It is, yes.
and cars go through there pretty quickly. We are working on a plan to kind of manage
right.
traffic a little better and provide more parking along there, but,
Heard that. You're trying to widen the median or the shoulders, right, on the road?
The other way around.
yeah.
Oh,
Instead of 2 lanes each way. it'll be
one, yeah, exactly. So that, yeah. Yeah, that's what, and I think that's smart. I mean, that's a great idea, but yeah.
There are a lot of kids that walk by there to and from school. And I just want to ensure that they're not gonna be able to, I mean, they walk by a smoke shop on Croton Avenue too, so, which is a lot less discreet
This is gonna be.
than you would be, I suppose.
We're gonna have a security outside and off-duty police officers. They can't even enter the main facility without identification verification.
And the rec center's across the street, actually, right?
How many feet from the building to the rec center, do you know?
Yeah, I think it was to get to the street. I forget, it was like I mean, I don't know the exact number, but it was far back from the step back distances.
But it's
I
directly
can chime
across
in on-
Highland Avenue.
So if you go across,
I can
it's to the left, right?
It's across the street.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
It's about 450 feet from, as the crow flies from entrance to entrance. However, it is off of a different street.
Right.
And
So, I mean,
because
it's
of the
a,
busyness on the street, I didn't think it should be an issue because there's such.
there's a bus stop.
It's hard
there, too.
it's hard to just run across the street there. You'd have to go to the light and then go across. And so that's why I identify, I mean, I looked at that as well, and because that, we don't want to have any hindrances, right? But there's almost, unless somebody ran across that street in a dangerous way, it would be tough to just, you'd have to go up the street all the way to the light and make a right. And so I thought it was all right, this location, yeah.
Okay, well, that's it for me.
Thank you, Dana.
Welcome.
Hey, thank you.
Yeah. So for context, you are our second presentation. So we're still getting used to the whole thing. So thank you for coming in, and you're learning, we're learning, we're all learning.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So as I see it, there are some clear strengths that you're bringing and some challenges, some that have been named already. So the qualifications that you bring as an individual, having worked in the pharmaceutical, is that what you call pharmaceutical? You have a pharmacy. Yeah, you have the pharmacy industry, very regulated. Having done so a number of times, to me, that bodes well. That's very, very strong. The bro diet, which we mentioned, to me is a huge part of what would make this business successful, because you would not only have more parking, but then the cars that are zooming by would be going slower.
They have to go slower. That was one of the things that
Right.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean.
No, you're good. No, go for it.
No, I was thinking that was one of the things that's going to help that, like that area, like it would have to slow down traffic, especially if we have security and police out there. There's no question that I think it's going to decrease the accidents that happened at the end of that. There's no question.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, I think it's a good thing. That area in particular, I think is one of the areas of the village that could benefit from having more businesses that have more foot traffic. But there are businesses around there, but they just don't get as much foot traffic as Main Street or even Upper Croton. So I think that more businesses there, more investment there is a good thing. So those are some of the strengths. the challenges, which we've named, the proximity to the community center. There's the letter of the law and the spirit of the law, right? So by the letter of the law, I think you and your colleague are correct that it's probably all good in terms of the footage you need to have from churches and or houses of worship and schools and so forth, the community center as well. And the spirit of the law, it's not a great look just because you can visually see both of them. I can stand in one place and I can see both of them. So that's tough, and that just kind of is what it is, but it's worth naming. I was recently in White Plains, and on Main Street in White Plains, across the street from City Hall is a dispensary.
Yeah, I
And
looked at
it's
that.
next to a Five Guys. And
Right.
so if you just kind of stand there and look, it's in an extremely busy area. There's always a million people
Insane
running around.
area.
Yeah. There's a ton of people, and it's fine. Like, it's not, there aren't people smoking out front. There aren't kids running. There are kids because there's families and people, but it's fine. So you know, there's a potential challenge there.
Which we work with,
Visually, you know, if not legally. And for me, the last thing is the signage. I think the signage in terms of fitting kind of what we would be looking for, something that's not super flashy or whatever, works. I just personally don't love it. I just don't think it looks good. Me personally, this is just super subjective. So if you want to meet offline, we can come up with something that would be clean and beautiful and yet understated.
I'm gonna be honest with you, that sign's not the sign we're gonna have there. Like, that's just you know, for the purposes of this meeting, right? But I would absolutely talk to you offline for sure.
Yeah. I just don't love the sign, but you know, it's fine.
I don't either, Dario. You heard, right?
Well, the name isn't exactly one of the, you know, some places, cannabis places.
It's not.
The name is Elevation or something like that, you know, yours Best Buds. I mean, I'm pretty clear what's going on here.
That's not gonna be the LLC name as well. So we are gonna, that's gonna be yes, that's a work.
I mean, it's a cute pun.
So
But if it could be a little less in your face.
I mean, I don't hate the name. The White Plains one that's across the street from City Hall is the White Plains Cannabis Growers Showcase. So, you know, that's a little bit more
In your face.
extravagant in your
Right.
face. Best Buds to me is fine. But you know, you can talk to Trustee White and y'all can workshop the name.
Look, I'll be honest with you. The name is it's a little funny, right? Like, I mean, but I had to get an EIN number through the IRS, right? So the first couple of businesses I created, it was only going to be able to be within the state because I wasn't able to get the EIN. So I had to come up with a name that's a little bit off the beaten path. So that's why I even added 13 at the end, just to ensure that I get the EIN number. Now we're going to work through definitely the naming process and signage for sure.
Yeah. The last thing that I'll say is there are already some community members that have reached out to us saying, hey, this is something that we're concerned about, you know, the proximity of the community center, everything else. To me, and that is part of what we will consider. To me, also hearing your story and how cannabis became something that was on your radar with your father's story is also very compelling. And so I would encourage you to continue making that part of the way that you talk about this business and what it can do. So
Thank you.
that's all for me, more statement than question, but there you go.
I appreciate your feedback, Omar.
Yeah.
So thank you for coming in. I'm not gonna repeat, I'm just going to do the additive
Sure.
and so you have retail experience in pharmacy.
Mhm.
You bought and then you sold most of them, or you still own all of them?
I still own one in Perth Amboy.
Right, so you own one, but you
I
bought and
started actually,
sold.
I started my first one I had purchased. And so part of it, I purchased it, and I had sold that to Walgreens
Mhm.
some years ago, right? And then the second one we started was this one that I have right now in Perth Amboy. And the third one was in East Orange, New Jersey. It's just I was making a lot of headway with the doctors and physicians in the area, so so it urged like a big player in town to you know, approach us for a buyout. But I want to be honest with this project right here. I'm going to be a part of this for quite some time because this is going to be long-standing within the community.
I appreciate the intention. We
Sure.
sit here, we have developers, they come, they say, literally this presentation,
Right.
they come, they flip, they leave. So I appreciate the intention. I have no reason to doubt you. You're an entrepreneur, you've opened businesses, you have a degree in pharmacy, from someplace in the Northeast. It's all good. that stuff is interesting,
Right.
but you're not actually, you could say it. It's, for me, I'm a little more cynical than my friend to the right, only because I've sat here long enough to hear that
Sure, of
storyline.
course. The thing
So,
is-
oh,
Sorry, the thing is with the cannabis, it's the license is in your name, it's attached to your name. Right, so it's I mean, at least for the first year, I don't know what the exact rules are. For some time, you can't even turn it over, you know?
a year is like nothing. So
Yeah, sure.
that's not a,
Yeah.
I mean, I'm just saying.
No,
it's
you're-
not-
you're right.
And I'm not saying you won't be here 50 years from now. It's not, it's not part of the test here.
Right, right.
I'm just saying, so what I'm really interested in is you. So you're the owner, you're 100% owner. So does that mean you have no investors in this business
That's
except
correct.
you?
That's
Okay,
correct.
so this is all your funding.
That's correct.
Okay, so in your business plan, unless you're funding it from, I guess, your personal
Well,
account.
Actually, let me step that back.
Mhm.
That's the intention, right? That's the plan right now, but things are fluid. They could change if, if other people want to get in, but I'm always going to be the owner of the license, right? So if I want to get investors involved,
Mhm.
bring in outside money, that's not the plan right now. But I mean, I'm not thinking it's never going to happen.
Okay.
Yeah.
I get it. That's fine. I'm just trying to make sure that, because some people are in partnerships and
Sure,
then
sure,
you
of
want to
course,
know
yeah.
who the other people are.
Yeah.
So you have retail experience. Do you have cannabis experience?
Selling cannabis?
You're having a dispensary somewhere else? 'Cause
No,
right
I don't
now,
have any,
This would be your first.
this will be the first,
Okay.
yeah.
I just, it wasn't
Prohibition
clear to
ended
me.
and I thought, because of how it affected me, this is the
Okay,
right path.
That's
yeah.
fair enough. So had you looked at other places in Ossining, or is this the only
I-
place?
I looked around a bunch.
Okay.
To be honest, this might have been a bit more expensive than I wanted, but the truth is, it's just the best location that I could see in all of town,
Okay.
you know?
All right, I am concerned that it's across from the community center. So if this was simply a legal issue,
Right.
size of the building and, I mean, I appreciate that the consultant that you hire thinks you're a great guy. I do appreciate that. And I appreciate that you hired a consultant. That this isn't like a back of an envelope
No.
idea that you have.
This is a
You
I
hired
studied.
a professional consultant and
Yeah.
that's nice. But I just want to also, for the public who will be watching this, because there are people in this community, the board unanimously voted to approve this, so it's not just the board, but we represent, like 30,000 people.
100%.
They have opinions about it, and so what we're saying goes for the records. I also want to convey their concerns, right?
Yeah.
Because that's actually our role in this, is that while you may fit the right boxes, being across the street from a community center, downstream from a middle school and a high school is concerning. Does it exist in cities where, as the deputy mayor said, like in front of city halls or whatever? Yeah. I mean, I got in Manhattan, there's like everything in one square block, like literally everything on the planet. And so to me, that's okay. It's not a great example for the community I represent, because that community center is highly used 7 days a week. And every school bus passes by that area and kids walk by that area every single day during school, and their parents drive them. It's the suburbs, right? And so for me, it made me uncomfortable. I'm not talking about legality. It's uncomfortable for me as a constituent, not me personally at all, but it is. And I was wondering if you had looked, as for example, on Route 9, farther north, there are stores with parking as well, but it seems you like this. And your drawings for me don't tell a story at all. I mean, that is a Photoshop sign on top of a building. I'm not getting a sense at all of your business plan. So I now understand that you're 100% owner, which is terrific. And I understand you're an entrepreneur. Amazing. Like, how many people could tell your story? Not many that I know. Successfully turned businesses over. We do have an interest that people stay around, but a lot of businesses don't stay around. Some do, some don't. That's not our call. Everybody has intentions of making money in the businesses. From a business plan point of view, I'm sort of curious as to how many employees you plan to have. Like, I'm not seeing a business plan in this presentation at all. So how many people are you going to employ?
So it depends on the traffic. We're gonna start off with I mean, probably more than likely we have to put that plan together, right? So we're gonna see how it's gonna work. We're gonna see what type of traffic that we think we're gonna get. I have to do a feasibility study. And then based on the feasibility study, based on the amount of foot traffic that's probably gonna come by the store, we'll identify how many we have to hire right off the bat. We are gonna have a company that's gonna be doing the hiring and firing of, just the hiring of of employees as well. So we'll be vetting all of them though. Well, but I hope to have a lot. I
Okay.
mean, to be honest with
So
you.
can I play that back to you?
Sure.
You're gonna buy a property that's more than you had hoped. You're gonna buy the property adjacent to it. You think you're
No, we're
gonna
not gonna
have,
buy the property adjacent. to
it's
it.
it's with it. It
Yeah,
comes with it.
that's one property.
You're gonna have 12 spots, you have a business plan and you're investing in something and you bought businesses and sold businesses. But a simple question like, I'm gonna
The
hire
plan-
lots of people from Ossining, which if it's 3 people, that's okay. I'm not giving you a hard time.
No, I
I'm
got
trying to understand how somebody buys entire business, doesn't know how many people. That drawing is a Photoshop drawing. I'm just not getting a sense of what you're actually opening.
Sure, yeah, I get that, yeah. And I could bring together, put together a business plan for you. I could bring mine. I mean, I've had a bunch of business plans that we went through just to understand how it's gonna work. You have to put together so many, not just one, but you have to go through it a number of times, and I could bring that to you and we could discuss it. I mean, or even at a meeting if you'd like, you know?
Right, so today we're
If I
at,
could, if I could chime,
yeah, please.
sorry, if I could chime in on that,
Please,
just
please.
typically for a retail store about this size, you're looking at the beginning around anywhere between 10 to 15 staff. Typically you're going to have maybe like I would say 3 to 4 to 5 cashiers depending on the traffic, 2 bud tenders, maybe 2 back of house staff, and 2 security personnel as well as managers. That would typically be on staff during some of the busier hours in the day. Keep in mind that some of these things had to come together in a very short amount of time. The intention is absolutely to turn this into a full-fledged schematic and drawing and get renders and everything like that, which we absolutely do intend to share with the council as it happens. Keep in mind too that the application process with the OCM is dubious at best. You have to submit an application in this case with a property and a lease in place, and it's a lottery. You may not even get it.
Yeah.
So folks have to be careful with how much cash that they burn right up front with getting designs and everything like that. But like Mohit said, we actually got some really positive news from the OCM today. It looks like he's at the top of the heap in terms of getting reviewed. So that might come much sooner than later. And so all of that will come. This is just drawings for now, just to get an idea for you guys. I wanted to touch on one other thing that you also mentioned, based on the proximity to the community centers. I absolutely can see from the optics level that is something that would be a concern for community members and folks that maybe haven't seen how cannabis plays out in a typical community in the past. There is a ton of data out there, and am I able to share the screen to show one image for a second? Yeah, here we go. So this is just one image, and this is taken from Statistics Canada. We have some of the most well-kept statistics because it's federally legal, and we've had now, what is it, about almost coming on 6 years of legalization, and to prove that data. This shows here what happens in a jurisdiction that introduces a recreational regulated market. You have probably already illicit cannabis in your community. There's no secret to that. Here's what happens when you introduce stores, and typically that will happen in higher population dense areas. You start from over here in 2018 where legalization happened, and you can see that that percentage area underneath the blue slowly increased, but actually not that slowly. Within about 3 years time, which is not a long time in the grand scheme of things, over half of the illicit market has been taken over by the recreational market. And so I think the focus it should really be from the idea that you're taking drug dealers off the street, that when you're introducing regulated businesses like this. And so I think that should be kept in mind.
I appreciate that. That's why we approved this unanimously. Your statistics and data done by a private company, while interesting, doesn't actually answer my concern, which is that it's a cost of me community. I have no doubt about that. Otherwise, we wouldn't have all voted for it.
Sure.
And I have no doubt that you're a good entrepreneur. That's also I'm trying to sort of answer a very simple question for myself. Today, being asked to sign something for the state of support, neutral or non-support, what I'm looking at is a presentation that is so generic. And so I could have put this presentation together with all due respect, even with your consultants. I'm not looking for any justification for why cannabis should be legalized. We've already had all those conversations.
sure.
Not looking to justify that. We've already done that, in my opinion. Not looking to where the size of the store is a good size or a bad size, or that you're filling a place that's been sitting empty for a few months. I have an issue with, I would have the same issue with a bar, by the way.
Right.
Being put across from a place that takes care of children, is an education center. It's not about the optics, it's about my concern.
Safety,
I
right?
would have exactly as I said with a bar. And I like the fact that you're putting, I don't think you know that it's gonna be 12 spots. You think it's gonna be 12 spots. Not sure if you'll
They
get
said
all
12 to
the,
15, yeah.
not sure. It is, you're not gonna have police there. People who are police are people that wear uniforms, but you'll hire security, to your point, or you think you will, or you'll have it in your plan. And you'll have a dozen people working there, probably. It sounds high to me, but it's okay. And you got all your security, all of that is great. But the role for me of an elected official is to think about the community. So if you told me you were building farther north than Route 9, in a place that's set back and has parking amongst other commercial, exactly the same thing,
Right.
but not across from a community center, I would have no hesitation. No matter what you've shown me here today, you're not really addressing that issue. And the concept that you went and looked at it, you don't live here. You have relatives who live in a community next door, which is not this community, which is great, because at least it says you have roots. So all of these are really good things. I have a little bit of a hiccup that is hard for me to wrap my head around. Downhill from 2 schools and across the street from a very significant community center. And that's very difficult for me. And it wasn't addressed in the presentation, which I had hoped that it would be. I'm still not hearing it. I don't need to hear about the pros and cons of cannabis, by the way.
No, I
I'm
got
already
you.
sold on that. You don't need to do
I
that.
guess. So the community center, I think it's harder for people to get there, like how it's fenced off and stuff like that, to run across that busy street during opening hours, at least during busy hours, right? We're gonna be open during the busier hours of like traffic. And because, like you said, it's such a busy street, for people to get there, they have to go from the front, from the street right here, right? I can't think of it, it's slipping my mind. Yeah, and they'd have to go from there, they'd have to go to the light and then make a right to go to the community center, right? Because it's fenced off. So I thought that would be, provide safety. You might be able to see it, and we could probably try to do something about the signage there so it could be lower, right? As opposed to too high. We have to discuss that. But yeah, I mean, getting to the facility from the community center is not just 1, 2, 3 running across the street. It's tough, right? So I
Yeah,
mean,
that's
what
actually, I think you're missing, I'm not
No,
not
I
gonna
know
keep
it's
going
just
with the point. I understand, I understand you within the legal rights and all.
No,
that.
I'm not trying to say
Just,
legally. I'm saying like even like,
It's not about kids, it's not about a 5-year-old running across the street to get cannabis. That's not the conversation we're having here. It's a concern for constituents where things, again, I would have the
Right, I
same
get
thing with a bar. I have issues, like when you look at where things are placed, you think about this. I think about it. I'm not saying everybody has to. I do want to also, you had mentioned about verification of
Yes, ma'am.
ID. So a constituent actually had asked me to simply ask. They're not able to, on their behalf, and I'll do that, exactly how you verify IDs and how you look to get into the place.
yeah, Dario from the security team, you can speak to identification verification.
Yeah, so there's going to be 2 stages of verification. It's going to be before entry. So you're going to have somebody right outside at all times checking IDs before you permit entry to anybody coming in. There's going to be a second point of verification, which is going to be at the point of sale. So prior to anybody being handed cannabis into their hand, they're going to have their age verified a second time. And that's required by state law. And I think it just is it makes sense in general anyways. Nobody's going to be able to just walk in there and touch the cannabis or access it. It's going to be behind, glass cabinets and under lock and key. So there's going to be always two stages of verification prior to any handoff.
So the only ID verification you're doing at the door is a human being looking at an ID. Is that right?
Well, I think there's those, like oftentimes security teams, they have the identification verification. What's that? Yeah, the readers, right? So I'm gonna ensure that we have that. And probably, yeah, on the outside, the inside, they're gonna have a second, when you're usually purchasing at the counter, then they check your ID again. Because if you entered, they have to make sure it's you, you know?
Okay, it's just that every kid, and while my children were both saints beyond belief, I'm pretty sure fake IDs are a dime a dozen in the community. So,
Can I jump in one piece there?
yeah, that was just a
Yeah,
question. You must have
I-
gotten the same one.
Yeah,
the reverse.
yeah, the question was also around scanning, or using machines rather than,
Mhm.
eyeball. Is that something that you would consider as well?
Yeah, 100%, yeah, absolutely. That's most of, yeah, go ahead.
Please, go ahead.
I think that's how most of the cannabis dispensaries, at least in New Jersey, operate, right? So there is a verification on, a machine to verify before even the second verification inside. That's just usually by eyesight. But the cameras, they're supposed to be so, I mean, it's pretty strict. They have really strict guidance, even with sending information to the state from your register like every 15 minutes in New Jersey. In New York, they're still developing that, right? Because it's still new, you know?
So the scanning, by the way, is also a regulatory condition that you have to meet. So scanners are required by law.
They're not, are they eye scanners or they're just something
I-
that you put through? You just put an ID
But-
through, it, right?
ID scanning.
Okay.
No, you put the ID through, it'll verify if it's a legit ID.
Okay. So I see the chief is on. Chief, any comments or questions?
Oh, excuse me. No, I know that this is obviously an ongoing issue everywhere. My main concerns are less the appearance of the building and the like, and more on the part of the state's ability to regulate. We have been having ongoing issues with the local bars. When we ask for help from the liquor authority, it's a very slow process because it's a understaffed and overworked agency. And in my experience, the OCM is even more so. It's very young agency, very understaffed, very overworked, most of their attention going to New York City. So if places are out of compliance with the law, the ability to do anything about it, it's out of our jurisdiction, essentially. It ends up being a referral, and the backlog of referrals and the like, could lead to a situation in which a concern today isn't addressed for a long period of time. That would really be my only input is in terms of regulation, our ability to do anything about it in the short term is really pretty minimal. And also we won't be allowing our police officer to work there. That's a whole other issue.
But that would be the case no matter who opened the dispensary, and it wouldn't be anywhere in our community, right?
That's right.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's
Right.
overall.
I do agree that this seems more feasible with the road diet plan.
Yeah.
Because otherwise, if it is a popular location, you're gonna have people pulling in and out of there, both north and south. And that's obviously a tricky thing to do right now. Much as I loved Austin Bakery's donuts, it was not the kind of hotbed where vehicles are pulling in and out, all day long. So it was a little bit different traffic flow. That would be a concern with people making the southbound turn on.
Yeah, well, it's hard to get in and out of there, and it's just an amazingly busy area with trucks and everybody speeding down there, the way it's shaped. Okay, Stuart and Maddie, you guys have been working, you did the pre-op thing. Any comments? Anything we need to know?
I don't have any comments. I am excited to see this presentation. Mohit, we met with Valerie and Joe and myself a couple weeks ago, and since then he's been on his honeymoon. So I know he was very nervous about giving this presentation tonight to you all, and he thought about it during his whole honeymoon.
Yeah.
So
I wanted to try to see if we could get in before it was up, but the honeymoon was great and it was awesome, I did think about this for sure. It was on my mind, no question, but I'm happy to be here.
Okay,
welcome back.
Thank you.
thank you. Stuart, any comments or questions? Okay, anybody? Oh, so now you have? Okay.
I have now a question.
Oh, okay.
And not too many, and I'm gonna sort of, some of the tough questions are already asked, sure. So there's always a plan B. sometimes a plan C. What was your plan B if this doesn't go through for argument's sake?
Plan B for, what do you mean? Plan B?
Location wise, because you see, you looked at different locations, because that's what pretty much, the mayor and some of the trustees have concerns in regards to the location to, I don't want to say too close to the community center, parallel to the community center. So put that aside for
Right.
1 minute. Other locations around the village.
So I looked at a number of locations. There's not too much for sale for retail. I identified a number of rentals and a number of different things, but to be honest, with a facility like this and with an operation like this, because of the high tax rate on it, and how much you're gonna have to be paying into that, this was the primary location, right? Like purchasing it would have is the optimal thing for me to do, right? And so I didn't identify anything else in town that was purchasable, and even the leased properties in town didn't make sense. I mean, just looking at it from size perspective, from so many different angles, this was the right fit. And with parking, I didn't see anything in town that had parking unless it was part of a larger,
Right. What I was describing, yeah,
yeah.
like a strip where there's
Yeah, like
4 or
a strip
5,
mall,
and then
and
there
then-
is, yeah.
and those you rarely ever see. I mean, shops like this. I just thought this was the perfect location.
So there was no plan B.
Well, there's plenty. I was looking around all around. It wasn't just in Austin,
Okay.
right? Because New York opened up, so
course.
you had to find which borough, and it's a large state.
So besides Austin, and I'm assuming you looked at other locations around.
Westchester area.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what was the other location or the municipality that you
I looked in White Plains. I looked at
Okay.
a bunch of different. I don't have the addresses with me.
That's fine.
But yeah, I did look at a number of other ones. I really liked it. This area. I liked a lot about it. I did a lot of research before I jump into anything. I studied inside out. That's why the cannabis space, I probably know like just as much as my doctor in pharmacy, right? Like, I mean, just from studying it over the past, because when I'm interested in something, and I gravitate towards it, I really like to learn everything about it. This location spoke to me though. I gotta be honest.
All right. Obviously, as you heard, the difficulty, the challenge that you have is the site location, sure. Next to a community center, traffic,
Traffic.
for kids going up and down that area. I guess my question to Stuart, and I know I asked these questions last time as well, so refresh my memory again. If the board was to say, we're not in favor of this particular applicant, what happens on the state level?
If the state's.
No, not you.
No,
Him.
I'm talking about it.
We're asking
Sorry.
our council.
You go.
And the options are no,
Yes.
support,
Opinion for or against granting of the license. That's exactly what the regulation says.
so you have to say you either support it or you're against it. And I thought you could just do like a. Right.
Without access support.
I think, because in at least the first one that we did, it's sort of a narrative, right? It's letter. So I know I heard a couple points on both sides. Here are some strengths that we saw in the application. Here are some things that we wish may have been different. I don't see any reason why we couldn't include both in a letter and just say we're
neutral.
not that you're neutral, but that, we saw a presentation and here are the things that we noted and, we were not able to weigh one more heavily than the other. We saw strengths and weaknesses, but it's up to the state, what the state, feels.
We'd love to go on your support,
I got a suggestion from a community member to consider the name Ossining Bakery.
You
I thought that was brilliant. I thought that was brilliant. Decided to already on-
that's actually, I love that. I love.
Tell it.
And you'll not say.
They're brilliant.
I can't say.
We actually get texts while the meeting. There are a lot of people watching and they will be watching.
I have to say the optics of a place called Best Buds across the street from the community center. It's just,
That's not.
that's how kids
That's not
talk,
gonna be the
know?
name, though. That's, I guarantee that's not gonna be the name. That's for sure.
I can verify that was never in the intention to be the name. We're gonna file a trade name.
I thought that was brilliant.
I think my client would make the promise to commit to changing the name if it would garner your support. So.
I'm willing to work with the community and everybody in it, to be honest.
Yeah, I'm sure you are. Like, I would feel a lot better about, that you actually had experience not as an entrepreneur. I mean, that's great.
Yeah.
Successful entrepreneurs, I'm telling you, I come from a family of that generation before me, which is why I'm not one. High risk, not always payback. It's a tough gig. I mean, you have a degree, you could have settled somewhere, one place, rest of your life, all good. I appreciate that. From a retail point of view, you can open probably any store that made sense financially. The cannabis business is growing, you did your analysis.
Yeah.
You came to a presentation knowing that somebody else already did a presentation, so you could have looked at that.
Right.
Without a business plan, without square footage of what it's gonna, I mean, the first picture of yours is like off of.
I can tell you square footage and stuff. The bakery is about 7,900 and change, about.
You came to a presentation for people who have to decide whether this project will be dead or alive without a business plan, saying, here's who I am, believe me. Sit in our, in our seats and have somebody, and there'll be 50 people after you tonight or tomorrow, whatever. I'm a nice guy, I'm successful, I have the money, I mean, think of what you presented.
Yeah.
And sit in our seats. We get 30,000 people. The cannabis has mixed feelings about. It's not, we're not asking you again to sell cannabis as an idea. We've done that already.
Mm.
But think about, we're being asked to say on what, based on that, your consultant thinks it's good. I'll tell you the one thing you did put in your presentation, which for me was interesting, is that there are lots of places you could have leased, so you didn't want to lease. The reason you have to choose this is there aren't that many places for sale right now, which is never in your presentation, but I now understand why you chose that.
Lease in the areas, it was tough. Even like the leases in the area weren't, I mean, that attractive. I looked at something because leases, you can get into a lease. I mean, that's fine, right?
Yeah,
I was
there's
looking
plenty of
for-
places
I
actually.
was looking for I was looking for a purchase initially, right? And you can get into a lease, but I identified this as being like optimal because of the parking and a number of different aspects where it would be its own building, right? So it wouldn't be, I just identified this as being
Right.
good, you know?
And the location is something I really am having a hard time with, to be honest with you. I had it as soon as I saw the presentation. It screams, and it just does. And it's our role actually to think more in terms of constituents than it is, in terms of just the zoning and
Sure,
all of
sure.
that. So it's an issue for us.
Done?
I am done.
Okay. Good evening.
Good.
I can appreciate what you're up against. The South, when we first talked about this, we discussed probably 3 areas in the village that we were, and this one is like in the middle of where we weren't. The south end of the village, I'm sure you've been to Arcadian. You got a lot of parking. And I think, I'm pretty sure that property is going through some challenges right now. So, you might be able to find something there. I would just, I would think that, I would like to see more from him with other options. I don't know how
I
everybody
just
else
don't
feels.
think I don't think that they have the opportunity to do that.
Yeah, so with OCM, how the company submitted was with property. They had 30-day notice, if that, to submit with a property. And so there are things that we wish could have been better prepared, like the business plan, like that's a requirement of part 2. So if we get the endorsement from OCM, we have to submit a whole slew of the business plan, all these different standard operating procedures, so that not only OCM, but the village would be comfortable with this company opening. I would like to point out that we're making comparisons to a retail store, to a bar. I do understand it's a community center, but this is gonna be a high-end operation that's gonna look like an Apple store. People are gonna be walking in, it's gonna be run very fluidly, so you're not gonna have people outside online, you're gonna have people walking into a store, making a purchase, coming out with a bag. You wouldn't know if it was called the bakery or anything but Best Buds. you would have no idea that it was a cannabis retail store from the outside, from the community center, because there's not advertising that's allowed. You can't blast this thing across. It's not like you can have neon lights saying, come here and buy your pot, right? This is gonna be a very high-end store. Mo has told me he's planning on not just renovating the inside, but beautifying the outside as well. And so he does have a plan to beautify the area so it fits in with the character of the neighborhood, so that your constituents won't be appalled or concerned that there's a retail store that sells cannabis and not a bar that's open till 2 or 3 a.m. with people outside maybe smoking cigarettes. No one's allowed to smoke in public. There's going to be security guys outside making sure that when somebody comes and goes, they leave, they walk away, they go down the block. So I just, the comparisons and some of the concerns, while I understand them, and can appreciate them, if you go and check out some of these stores, come to New Jersey. You've seen them, right? So
Honestly, all you have to do is look last year at all the conversations. We've done that homework. We've seen it. Nobody votes on this without looking at stuff. We get it. We understand. Again, you don't need to justify the use of retail. We're having a discussion about the location and the way it's presented to us actually matters. So some of us are okay with it, some of us aren't. So Maddie, for me, we have to make a decision. Unless there's something that hasn't been brought up that somebody needs more information about. Do you need more? Okay. And the sale of the property to you is based on anything, or you're buying the property, or you said it before and I missed it.
it's contingent on approval from both local here in the village and the state.
Right, okay, well, okay. So if you don't get this, you're not buying the property because you don't need to, you're not opening something else. So Maddie, your idea of sending it with an explanation that maybe somebody will read it in state or wouldn't. I'm getting like mixed vibes usually. I get a good sense of how people are voting, but nobody actually said whether they're supporting it or not, so I have no idea what's happening here. So far I've been probably sounding the most negative, but it's more about your presentation, not about the, and we've seen one before, which really had somebody with years of years. It's a very young industry. So years is like 5 years is years, 10, I think they had 10 years in the actual cannabis environment, made me feel a little bit better. And the location is fit more into our vision of what it should be. This doesn't. So they're not strikes. They're just two things that upset me. So, anybody want to say whether they support or not? Because I'm not doing a vote, but I gotta get a sense of where we are with this, because we have to actually make a decision. We can't table this. I don't think we can table this. I think we have to do this tonight, right? We weren't given very much time. I appreciate that. Holidays, whatever, anything else?
Yeah, we're not setting 38, so we got like 4 days.
We have 4 days, yes. We weren't given enough time. We could discuss how that's not that great, but that has nothing to do with them. It's a mixture of holidays and meetings and all sorts of stuff. I already heard that. So anybody want to say whether they're for, against, neutral?
I'll start.
Okay.
I'm a yes, especially if you change the name. Yes, exclamation point, if you change it to Osany Bakery.
Dana?
Yeah, I'm a yes with the same contingencies, and an understanding of,
Deputy Mayor made, or is that what you're saying?
oh, yeah, I'm not crazy about the name. You can, I mean, something, and be, and I just don't want to be in a position to say to somebody, no, you can't do business in our village and pay taxes and all this great stuff, but, with an understanding of the location, and the responsibility that comes with this, because,
Okay.
it matters. I think our kids grow up pretty fast, but I think that we should, take them into consideration, obviously.
So,
Having some.
we're good, or we'll be here all night. So, you're good with it? You?
Can you speak into the microphone, please? We can't hear.
I haven't said anything yet. Can you hear me? Thanks,
Yes, you
Jamie.
can.
You know, it's always that, I don't want to say struggle, but it's always a difficult decision to make, in cases like this. It's not so much about, sometimes about the location, it's about, or the security portion of everything else. I think Mike. So now I can hear myself in the back. That's awesome. Thanks, Jesse. So I think it, to me, is a little bit of, you know, even though you said phase 2 on this plan, if everything gets approved, that's when you see your business plan, you know, you know, so to me, it's a little bit of what the mayor's concerns was in regards to that portion. You know, the look of the business itself, I think it could change, it can morph, especially if you want to invest money, as you said, to the building itself, not just to the inside, but to the facade, to the exterior of that as well. And I know you'll have to, if approved, you'll go through the process of planning board. I'm not sure if you have to do any zoning or any variance, as far as I know. I don't think you have to, but definitely planning and architectural review board, you definitely will have to go through all that stuff if that's the case.
Well, the parking, he may have to also.
No,
I don't
because it
think they
depends on the
use it
square
as a
footage.
parking.
No, it's
Oh,
just depends on
okay.
the square footage and the
Alright.
retail space. You know, that's what is contingency of the square footage of that and how many people can it fit in that retail space. And that's obviously, and I think to me, that's the struggle a little bit, the business plan, because even though we are working on this other phase on our village and in regards to Route 9, you know, parking is always going to be an issue. I mean, your expectation of that business is to grow, sure, for you to be busy. At the same time, you being busy kind of becomes a challenge to the village. You know, on parking and enforcement and regulations of all that nature, and what cause, even though people are slowing down, you're bringing more traffic to that particular area, which sometimes it can cause conflict of what we are trying to accomplish on our end. So that's what I also have to look as well. You know, if it's a maybe, I could say maybe, but I see where the board is you have the majority right now. That's what you have. So no matter what I do or what I said is irrelevant. You know, look.
Your lawyer's sort of saying, don't say anymore. So might I suggest, that's why he's still standing there. He really wanted to go sit because he's been to these kind of meetings.
You're changing the deposition.
Right. I'm doing you a favor by saying stop.
Thank you, man.
So
Okay.
you have the majority. So your application is more or less is going to be in favor. It's going to be a positive letter to the state. My suggestion based on that is to work with the community to make that environment safer for everybody else. I'm not too much in favor about Austin Bakery because I think people may get confused. In that regards, you know, they want to try to get some bagels at some point, you know, so I wouldn't want to, you know, deviate from that name at least. That's just my 2 cents on that one.
Okay.
But yeah.
So I'm actually not that in favor of you, and it's very rare because usually we vote unanimously and we sort of get a feel for it. If most of the board was against it, they'd have my vote for that. So what I would like to do is be very specific about the problems we have. It's not just optics, it's also, because I have to sign the letter and it's a little bit uncomfortable for me. So I want it documented. It's already documented, which is why we spoke about all those, because these are all recorded and memorialized so that next year when stuff doesn't happen, you know, we're gonna have 12 parking lots, but 15 employees, which means -3 parking spaces. So there are a lot of things, parking, community center, the school, kids walking by, commitment that they're going to have security, commitment of the parking, commitment that he's the sole owner, he might change it to investors, but many of the things, and I'm sure you can go through the recording. And that there are constituents, strong constituent who object to this. I will say that they also object to us having voted to have cannabis, and we all recognize that. I get it. But it's not about optics, it's actually the location. And all the other stuff that was discussed, I think should go in the letter because the state should see it, even though they'll get even though they'll get a letter of support because the board votes in majority, even if it's not. Because I have reservation, I want it stated in the letter. I don't know what it'll do because we haven't done that before. We usually go one way or the other, so I don't know what happened.
Do
with
want
that
to
kind of
ask,
a letter.
sorry, just give me 1 second. I do have a technical question in that regards to it, because usually I thought the letter was pretty much either yes or no, and I don't recall what we did from last point. But I think we adding a lot more stuff.
Yeah.
That I don't know if we should be doing that or not. Because I had reservations from the last application and none of my concerns were addressed in that letter. I'm just saying.
That's
I'm just,
fine.
you know, I'm just
Could've
saying
asked
that.
for it. I'm
So
asking
I'm
for it
at,
to
but
be
that's,
put in.
that's what I'm asking our attorney in this case and advice to that. Are we legally allowed to do that kind of stuff?
Of course, they're always here, please. There's nothing specific in terms of other than saying accept or reject. So if you wanted to list, we accept. But we just want to bring
We
to
have
the
concerns.
attention of the OCM blank blank. I can't see that that's an issue.
And the
And
next
that's
people that
that's
come to us, we
fantastic,
might do
you know,
something else.
And that's fantastic because again, if something else as you mentioned, so I want to make sure if I was to go in favor or against, for whoever comes, I want to make sure that my concerns are also part of the future letter. Okay, all right.
We learn
So-
with each one. If
All
we would have thought about this on the last one, oh, we may have thought of that, but we didn't think of it. This time it was brought to our attention. We want to do that. I don't know if it has any effect on it or not. It may have zero effect, right? So we don't know. It's all very new. So,
So the board will have a draft in their inbox by noon tomorrow, because again, because of the schedules of this board and the applicant, we're sort of under the crunch here. So you'll have a draft by noon tomorrow, and then we can get it out before end of week. And I'll do my very best to reflect all the concerns from
yeah,
this
I'm
conversation.
sure that'll be fine. So I think she's just asking that we all look at our emails. And I would ask that we're not being put in this position again, have 4 days to turn something around. As a board, it makes us feel there's nobody to blame, but I would just ask also because this is being recorded and people say, why didn't you ask for an extension? We can't ask for an extension. It's very specific, so we can't ask for an extension. So thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you. Thank you for your time tonight.
Thank
for
you.
your time.
And looking
Thank you,
forward
counsel.
to keeping your promises and your words, and good luck.
100%.
Getting the rest of the process, which I know is complicated.
So I think,
And look how nervous he is. He doesn't want you to say anything.
Thank you.
You're supposed to say
Thank you.
I just want to say thank you, and I think we will be intimately acquainted afterwards, to be honest.
Perfect.
Have a good one.
Okay, the board may recall that we recently undertook a study, firehouse consolidation study with Mitchell Architects. Mitchell Architects has been bought by a company called Wendell. And we are now reviewing a proposal, which we've provided to the board, that details a scope of work so that we can take this to the next phase for our existing houses, the 5 existing houses that are owned by the village, where we can do an inventory, Wendell can do an inventory of the maintenance required, improvements required to make the houses safer based on the report that they provided. So again, some of the issues were issues of ensuring that we had proper decontamination strategies and facilities and things like that. So we would like to discuss that. So,
Okay,
So
who's up?
well, I think I can repeat it, but
could I just make a point of clarity? Because the last study was an update to
correct.
2009 study. So this has nothing to do with what was already performed.
No.
Right? This is
So-
all to put us in a better place.
Correct.
Safety
This is not
concerns.
this is not an update.
We're not
to study
rehashing
which-
that.
So just to be clear,
So everybody knows that we're not redoing
the
it.
2009 study and then subsequently the study that we just did last year both studies demonstrated that there were deficiencies in our current houses, and that's not atypical. They're old houses. They've been around for a long time. And they certainly weren't built back in the day with the standards that we have for firehouses today. So this is really taking that study and the learning that we got from that study and applying it to our existing houses. This is a separate discussion from the ultimate consolidation, but looking at our existing houses and making sure that in a cost-efficient way, we can make them safer than they are with capital improvements and addressing some of the maintenance issues that we know exist, particularly in the houses that will less likely be consolidated going forward. The cost of the study is $15,750, and we are asking the board to consider it so that we can get this scope of work done. We also just found out that there's $1 million grant for improvements that really fit right into this bucket of improving safety of fire facilities. And that is due in April. So the timing of this would give us the documentation we would need to submit for that grant as well, which we feel that based on what we know about the grant thus far, it was recently issued, that we would be in a very competitive position to get at least some of that money, which would then again be used to make the capital repairs, which we had already discussed in the budget, but we hadn't, without knowing what the cost is, that was a TBD on our capital.
So the ask tonight is to
project.
do $15,000 to do a study, not to actually do anything repair wise, but to do a study for all of the houses. some of them.
It's really, I would say it's a little bit more detailed than a study. It's really looking and doing the, creating a scope of work to create for the 5 houses that are owned by the village, to create a scope of work that would detail improvements that would be specific to making the houses safer. So not just new windows because the house needs new windows. It would be firematic safety, exactly.
OSHA and NFPA compliant.
Correct.
Okay. I had it until the OSHA and the other part, because OSHA can come out and tell you what you need to do. You don't have to have consultants do that. So tell me.
OSHA only.
Mayor, can you please speak into the microphone?
Thought I was
The
speaking.
only reason you'll see OSHA on a site is there's a violation.
Right, but
They
then you
don't, just
also-
don't come out and make visits and recommend what you need to do,
Right, but if they come out, then they do tell you.
but they
also.
won't. Because
Okay.
there's no violations.
All right, Maddie, could you tell me what the firematics thing is, please?
Yeah, sure. So this is part and parcel with something that we've been discussing. We discussed a little bit in budget season this past year and something that we're hoping to get up and running for budget season this year. Is basically a full ongoing maintenance plan for all of village-owned buildings. And believe it or not, 5 firehouses are village-owned buildings, right? So same as like for your house, you would say, okay, we know we need a roof every 20 years, so we're going to make a schedule every 20 years. We're looking to do the same thing with all village buildings, including these buildings. Unfortunately, these buildings are in much poorer shape than the other village buildings that we're used to. So we asked for sort of a triage plan to get them up to snuff. However, within our own ranks here, Paul is with us in the audience, Andy, John Heitman. We do have many people on staff who are familiar with things like HVAC, roof replacement, things that are sort of more standard for a building. This proposal is specific to fire safety improvements.
Right, so it's not building, it's fire.
It's
And they have the relationship, right?
well,
But
like
it's not-
exhaust, for example, right? It's something that we don't have in-house.
Like you wouldn't have that
expertise.
issue in this building. You
Building
would have-
considerations specific to
That's what I was
firehouses,
asking.
yes.
That's, okay, that's all I was trying to understand.
So a
Firematics.
bit more specialized than our generalist expertise here on.
And
on
maybe
these
it'll
things.
help us get some grants once we see whatever, and at least put us on a plan. Okay, does anybody not want this done? Anybody? Okay.
I just have
Oh,
questions.
sorry.
Not that I don't think it's needed, because hopefully one day, maybe in the next 10 years, we'll get an elevator on one of our municipal buildings. Not gonna say the building, but we'll see. All right, so, and help me understand a little bit better on the mechanical. Maybe Bob, you can help me, because the exclusions are very specific. Sure, the exclusion says all mechanical, electrical, plumbing, building systems analysis and reports to will be performed by others as directed by the village and outside scope of this proposal. So what does that exactly mean? Because some of the OSHA and NFPA have to do with electrical, and have to do with plumbing, it
Right.
have to do with mechanical.
Correct.
So when we are hiring a consultant to give us that kind of information, but yet that is not part of the scope of work, so I'm a little confused.
So they wouldn't recommend electric, they would recommend if there's an exhaust system that needs to go in. They recommend that there's an exhaust system, then it's on us to find a vendor. Find an electrical vendor, find a mechanical vendor. They're not doing any physical work. They're just gonna recognize issues that we need or that are lacking in these buildings. Then the onus is on us to take care of it.
So, yeah, and I think that as Maddie said before, if it were just going into a building like this building and saying, okay, we know that we need a new HVAC, we know that the windows, you know, we're gonna have to replace the windows in 5 years, we know that the roof needs fixing. Those things we can pretty much do on our own.
I get that.
So what we excluded is we don't need somebody else coming in to tell us what we already know. What the reason those things are excluded is, this is very specific to building design almost, if you will. We have some issues with hot and cold zones, things like that.
So my other question, and I guess I sort of kind of agree and disagree on that one. I'll leave that alone as exclusions for now. So on part D of assumptions, number 3, it says AutoCAD files of existing buildings will be provided by owner as available. I'm assuming they're asking for AutoCAD files
As available.
as available. So
Wait, that.
exactly, that's what I'm saying. So we have nothing. So that goes back to number 4. If determined that the drawings of the existing are required, then they want to generate a 3D scan of the as an additional cost. So now that is a given. Are they going to require drawings? Because that's what they're looking for.
I don't know yet if they're going to need them. My assumption would be that in some cases they would, and in some cases they would not, depending on like for hollow hose, for example, and then for headquarters. And feel free to chime in if I get something wrong, because I often do. For those 2 buildings, we can sort of tell, because they're newer and they have a little bit more capacity, pretty much what's going to be needed. We just need some expertise in figuring out how to do it. But you may very well be right that for the other buildings, because they are a little bit older, we're going to need, you know, some more intensive help. And so the AutoCAD drawings may be something that's necessary. I'm not sure if that's something that we can get internally through Valerie's firm either. So that's not
I don't
something
think
that we
they
had
do.
spoken about.
I think that we,
There.
you know, the idea is like, we want to be. We want to make sure that we're spending money to get things done at this point. This is not time, you know, we've done a study. We don't want to really spend more taxpayer dollars on studies to get a plan. So I think that there'll be decisions made based on cost and what we think the severity of the issue
so let me
is.
ask
So
you-
we'll have
let me-
to judge that when we come to
Okay,
that
so
point.
Then let me be straightforward with this. If they have to do drawings or 3D scan, what is their rate for that? Because then I want to make sure that we get in the money's worth of the potential additional cost to this. I want to know they're going to charge hourly. Is it, do they have an idea how much?
We
So
can
for me,
get a fee
that would be
schedule, yeah.
essential because again, if they're gonna do something like this, no matter what happens, if we're just gonna do repairs, we can do repairs room by room. This needs this, this needs this. There's no need of architectural drawings at some point, but I'm assuming if we're gonna be looking at this as a global area, at some point, someone's gonna be like, you know, if we're gonna be sending this out to bid, someone's gonna need drawings.
So we can get a schedule of fees. Alternatively, or in addition, we can ask for just an add-on to the proposal to say, if in fact we need AutoCAD drawings for all 5 buildings, what would you charge us for that? Please also give us your hourly rate.
So I think, but I think we also, you know, we're trying to, as you all know, if you ask somebody to come in and say, what do you need to do to the building? You have your budget, you have what somebody's going to recommend to do, and then you maybe have some things that you need to do that you would rather spend on cosmetic things or whatever it is. So we're trying to keep this reined in to the
Get that.
degree that we really only want to do things that are essential to address for health and safety as opposed to
And
none of the buildings can
again,
meet the
so
current
I'm going
standards. Yeah.
back- I'm going back and I'm reading what is in here, the proposal that you sent us, sure.
Right.
Which is says, if determined that the drawings of the existing are required. So who's gonna determine that? They're gonna determine that.
Well,
Correct?
we
Or we
would,
gonna
we
determine
would determine it based on the conversation, because I think there will be issues where they may say, we may have to make a decision, because the next phase of this is we're gonna get the list of the scope of work, and then we're gonna have to decide, triage a bit more, and that's gonna be based on, again,
So let's get a
prioritizing
fee
health and
schedule.
safety. So if we get a fee schedule, I think it'll be easier to manage that.
Yeah,
So
my
I-
next, hold on. My next question is, we usually, and I know we done this, this scope of work a couple years back with the previous architect, I guess I want to call it. But how come we didn't go, now this is being proposed to us, sort of like phase 2 of that one. So, but we didn't go out and ask for an RFP for somebody else.
We did not ask for an RFP because this is really specific to firematics
Yeah,
and
this is different from the last time.
this
not
is,
as-
this is building on things that
Yeah.
we were
I'm
gaining an
sure-
economy from this because they were the ones who did the study. They're familiar with the
I
buildings.
get all that stuff, but so you're gonna tell me that if I do a Google search, there's not other architectural firms or engineering firms that done this kind of work?
I think there probably is, the likelihood of us getting something this efficient and at this cost with somebody brand new is not likely. So
Yeah.
what we did is we went with what we knew would be the best and most effective and expedient way to get this done. We could have, perhaps, but we're really not looking for a redo of every house. This is very, very specific to we had the last presentation. They were very specific, house by house, what the deficiencies were. So it's really identifying the scope of work for deficiencies they've already
That-
done. So
Karen,
I,
again,
I'm
not-
trying to answer your question
No,
of
no.
why we didn't do the RFP. That's
But
why.
again, so we've been, in other projects, we actually have gone out for architectural service or engineering service on ours on RFP. We have that done it before, even though we knew what we needed to do, we had an idea what the.
I
repair
would
needed
not
to
say
be.
they're analogous
So-
to this
Okay,
situation.
so that's, again, because that's
Yeah.
someone that had asked me, it's like, why are you going with the same consultant? How come this wasn't sent out? So I'm responding,
Right.
I'm asking the question that was asked to me in regards to this.
Again, it was seen as an extension of work already done. Whereas if you brought somebody in, they might decide that they had to redo that work. We didn't want to do that. We wanted to make this as cost efficient as possible, and it didn't seem reasonable that that would be the case if we put it out to bid. Or we did an RFP rather.
To comment on what you're reading as assumptions. I believe this is just a boilerplate that he puts in everything. I don't see any reason why they would need any CAD drawings at all. We're not building new structures. We're not adding on to any structures. This is all internal work. So I think you're going into the weeds here with this. I'm gonna presume, not assume, that that's a boilerplate thing that goes into his thing there. And to echo on the village manager, we have the bus moving. I understand your point about RFP, RFQ, whatever you want to call it. But these are the most familiar people with the buildings, and I think we get our best bang for our buck by using them.
Again, Bob, I'm not assuming anything. I'm reading what the proposal was sent out. So I'm assuming that they actually go through all the proposals and all the lines in here, and that's what they actually do. There's some items that I'm sure there's probably state plates in here, but I'm reading, I have concerns because I have seen things that have changed where they said, oh, wait, that's additional now. This is how much we're gonna charge us for that. Okay, so I'm not arguing with you, but I'm reading what the proposal was, so, okay.
Okay, so. Okay, so if I get this right, these are the folks that were looking at the larger consolidation. You guys seem to like working with them. They looked at all of our houses as part of the consolidation, so now they're thoroughly familiar with it. I don't know if it should be 10,000 or 15 or 20. It's not a request for, over 100,000. It's one of those amounts that you have to sort of use a bit of judgment. Seems fair to me. That's all you're gonna get. If they find things and at some point my feeling like there are only two ways to do a budget, right? One is how much is it gonna cost? And then the board has to sit there and pull our hair out and go, is that good or not? Or you get an amount of money and you tell the consultant, this is what you have, deliver on this amount, don't come back. We're not coming back to the board because you've already been to our houses. You've already done it from the consolidation. This is the piece that says, let's fix things. And you already know our staff and you know what's going on. Do I know if it should be 15 or 12? Is it worth an RFP? I don't know. Sometimes I just have to say, you guys have to figure this stuff out and on our behalf, feel good with the people are doing, and it's an amount that I'm comfortable with. Based on nothing more than seeing the kind of bills we get for so many other things. I do think that out of the consolidation study, whether we're ever able to find a site or not, the idea of upgrading the firehouses to a level of safety, not for luxury and not for, fun, but to actually do it for a matter of safety is something that we need to do with these properties. If at some point we'll have to discuss also independent, because if they don't follow the same standards, I'm not sure how much longer we're going to lease from them either, because they're landlords and we have to consider that. I'm getting a little bit uncomfortable with the sort of that, but that's far off for now. So there are a lot of pieces I like. I would be in support of saying, let's get this going, tell them this is it. They find other issues, we may not do all the houses. We may only do 3 because I don't want you guys coming back to us all the time with more and more and more. I don't want to hear how costs went up, surprises, blah, blah, blah. This is to look at safety issues because we discovered that until we find the consolidation in the new site, et cetera, we need to fix some things that were discovered. So you have issues, Bob said, you're for it? I didn't hear what you said. You're for it? They need a yes or no to go forward. You're for it. For it? Yeah, I think it makes sense to stay with the folks who started it. But for this specific,
Dana.
for this request, it's a yes? Yes. Okay, so that's a yes, and you're a,
Yes.
and I said yes, and you said yes,
No,
no, you have
I say
concerns.
yes, I just have concerns that I know it's gonna come back to more.
Okay, so you guys
So
have
just
to
wanna
watch it.
get- I
He's
wanna
bringing it
get
to your attention.
numbers, kind of, look, we hire consultants, enough consultants that have come in and asked for
Yeah.
additional stuff.
It's possible that the consultants may want more drawings. It is very possible that they will say, we need this. With this particular job, we've been very careful and we've worked with Mr. Mitchell. This is not an exercise in perfection. We will not be able to get these houses to where they would need to be if we were going to build them new today. However, to the mayor's point, there are improvements that we can make to the existing structures that would address the primary issues that we have. And the primary issue is making sure that we're preventing any contamination. So while they may ask for that, again, we are keeping a very tight rein on making sure that we don't get the complete tear down renovation of each house.
Right.
Because
So-
we really can't afford to do that.
If I may, let's wrap this up. I do want to just say for the public, not for the people in this room, you've heard some words, contamination, but this is all about the safety of the volunteer firefighters. It's not about the community or contamination. It's literally for the safety and well-being of our volunteer firefighters. That's what this discussion is about. The houses in which, if you will, they work and live in order to, do the firefighting for us. So you have enough information? And you got the budget, you got the requests.
We'll get that schedule.
You've got all of
Yes.
that.
see
Okay,
you
I
next
think
week.
that's a yes on that. I think we're gonna change one more thing. Karen, we're gonna have, yeah. I would have had you on sooner. I didn't make the connection of why you're here and you've been sitting here. I'm hoping you found this an interesting meeting. Thank you for being here. I appreciate you coming. You don't have to do anything. I'm being a little bit apologetic. Normally we try, people have businesses, we try to get them in and out, although you seem to be enjoying the conversations we're having. So thank you. But can we go on to this?
Yes, thank you, Mayor.
Okay.
We have the application by El Manabita for cabaret license. Ms. Vasquez is here, counsel, Mr. Chisari is here. We have Chief Donahue here as well. This application has gone through the process of building department approval or building department inspection pass. No finance issues. It has also come back from the police department. I'll let the chief comment with regard to that. El Manabita was issued a refreshment license, I think the very end of last week for 2024. Plus they got an amusement devices license. So they are now looking for a cabaret license. I realize that the time in here is inconsistent with what the village wants, but let's call it noon to midnight, except for Friday and Saturday, which should be noon to 1
Which
a.m.,
is our standard.
which is what we
Okay.
usually do. El Manabita did have a couple of violations. The chief can comment on this in 2023, primarily related to overcrowding. But the important thing to remember is El Manabita has 3 rooms. It has a bar upstairs, it has 2 downstairs. The bar has a max of 17. A couple of them, I think it was a right up, there was 20 on one occasion, on another or 18. There was one altercation at the end of the year. My understanding is that was a family event involving Mr. Vasquez that was downstairs and someone had an issue or something like that. And that was, I think, like New Year's Eve. So it was just very, very recently. The police were there on many occasions in 2023, but most of them were for premises checks. The board is familiar that in 2022, the application for a cabaret license was denied by this board twice. It was also denied for 2023, but they are back now for a 2024 cabaret license. They do have a valid, obviously, New York State liquor license, and it is before the board at this time. But again, we have the chief on if the board wants to hear from the chief before hearing from council.
Okay, chief?
I actually was not in support of providing a refreshment license to this establishment. As one of our 4 focal point locations, they have been a very heavy draw on police resources, time, staffing. While I agree that the bulk of the blotter entries for this location are for premise checks, that is indicative of the fact that this location requires more attention than other comparable locations. They also have had violations with the health department for people vaping. They have current cases in front of the state liquor authority for a number of violations, including the large altercation there that involved an individual with a baseball bat, a woman striking another woman over the head with a bottle. So this has been a location that has been quite busy. The gentleman who represents himself as the owner is not actually the licensee, so there's a veiling investigation being conducted by the liquor authority for operating a bar by someone who's not the licensed licensee. In the last 3 years, which is generally the window in which we look back for the purposes of permits, there have been 37 criminal investigation cases opened by the Austin Police at that location, and 339 blotter entries in that same period of time. I would argue that the location has really been less than stellar at operating a refreshment business, much less a cabaret. This location was operating illegally as a cabaret in the past and was cited for such. So I would argue that they don't have a track record of operating above board without the cabaret would only potentially increase problems. And I don't know if they, I don't have their method of operation with the liquor authority in front of me, but I don't even know if they have permission from New York State to operate as a cabaret. Again, as they have without permission in the past. So I would suggest that we see how the location operates without the cabaret, and if they can stay out of local and liquor authority attention for the year, and also to see how these issues shake out that are currently in front of the liquor authority and could affect their ability to sell alcohol.
Okay, thank you. I know you're gonna, let me just round it up.
Maybe I could.
I feel like I just got two different messages, so, and then I'm sure that,
And I, if I might, let me just say this, because I do appreciate everything that the chief has said. When the board considered the cabaret license applications in 22 and 23, the vast majority of these violations were before this board. We are now looking for a 2024 license. So to some extent, what has happened before resulted in 3 denials of cabaret licenses. We are now in a new year. If we look at 2023, you have, again, certain violations and certain things that were written up, no SLA referrals in 2023. But you have some violations that occurred, as I said, a few were overcrowding, there was one altercation. There are pending matters before the State Liquor Authority that Mr. Chisari can comment more on. I would only say this, if in fact a charge of bailing, which is that basically someone is operating under someone else's name, is found, then there are provisions under the village code that can deal with that in terms of a license being, revoked or suspended, including a cabaret license. We don't have that determination from the SLA. It's still pending before the SLA at this point. We are familiar with, other locations in the village. As the village is aware, there are 3 other locations where refreshment licenses, in fact, have been denied for this year. In this case, for this particular location, it was granted, I would just say in terms of the cabaret specifically, it is true that the application asks the police to go back 3 years, but I just want to make it again clear to the board that when we went back to 3 years, you were looking at those years when you essentially did the prior denials.
I get
So we're
that.
now in a different year. So
Okay.
I would leave that and,
And-
if you want to hear from Mr. Chisari.
If I could just add
Sure.
one thing.
Oh, yeah.
By no means am I suggesting that Mr. Kahan was incorrect in issuing the refreshment license. We just have perhaps a difference of opinion. I've got the utmost respect for Corporation Counsel. Obviously, we're not going to agree on everything all the time. And he's obviously well within his rights to issue that.
well, that's why we have multiple people, otherwise we wouldn't. We want to hear the different opinions with explanations to help us make decisions. Sir?
Sure. First, we'll deal with the most serious of Chief Donahue's allegations to state liquor authorities, the availing charge. The person on the license is Mrs. Vasquez, Mr. Vasquez's wife, and he's operating it as his manager. And an application has been put forth to the state liquor authority to have him added to the license as a manager. The problem with that is while there's a pending disciplinary matter, nothing can be done. The policy of the state liquor authorities, nothing can be done to the license until that particular disciplinary matter is resolved. And the disciplinary matter that is currently pending are for charges that date back to 2022. And in fact, we're on, I think, day 4 of hearings with the state liquor authority. The next one is scheduled, I think, now for January 29th. As far as the police resources for places of comparable, there are only 3 other comparable places, and they're now all closed. But this seems the police deployments was the same for all 4. If I have testimony from clerks' hearings where the police officers all testified, from Detective Chavez, Sergeant Chavez, and several other police officers, that they're instructed every night to go to all 4 of these places, starting with either El Manatiba or Atlantic Bar and hit all four, whether they've been called or not. So are they using more police resources than any of the others? No, we have testimony from your own police force that that's what they're instructed to do every night from Chief Donahue on Friday, Saturday, and most times Sundays also. As far as the overcrowding, again, that was an issue that was dealt with, especially with one of the bars in your own village court, which said the issue of the overcrowding dealing with the state liquor authority is in their purview, and it's not a criminal or a village matter to be dealt with, but only the state liquor authority. And the village and the court.
Can I stop you, please?
Yes, please.
You're acting as a lawyer in a court. I would, number one, it isn't Chief Donahue, it is the police department. We are not here to hear your legal opinion about all the legal issues. What I would like to hear is what specific to why we should be giving a yes to this, because you are now treading, in my opinion, into legal matters, and you keep referring to the same chief. It is, and there was another chief before him. So I would appreciate to stay on the matter of why we should say a yes to this.
Well, again,
You're not here to argue, all of this other stuff. I mean, I'm happy if you go to court and do that, but I'm really interested in why we should say yes.
sure, and I'll go with Mr. Khan's opinions that everything that Chief Donahue, and even when he was Captain Donahue referring to, happened in 22. 23, the incidences are just current that they did with the other 3 locations. There were not any more 311 calls to this place than there were 311 calls or 911 calls to any of the other places. So I don't believe their behavior is any better or worse than any of the other 3 establishments.
Okay.
And in fairness, one of them, I have no issue with the denial of one of their licenses. The other 2, well, that's a different matter.
I would have argued it differently because you keep comparing your client to people whose businesses are closed. I'm not sure it's the best argument to be making tonight. What I'm interested in hearing is that, and you agree with it, so let me step back. Okay. The role here is about a cabaret license and explaining to the board some issues, right? So we've had issues with bars. Would you say the police is doing their job in going to look at bars where we've had a lot of problems with bars in general?
In general,
Yeah.
of course.
Okay, so they're doing their job. Period. So what I'm hearing, and I want to just be very clear here. What I'm interested in hearing is whether this establishment has made progress in the positive. We've had issues, we bring them to the owners. Some owners, we bring the issues, we hear their explanations, and they continue to do what they're doing in the negative. Has this particular place, in your opinion, and I can ask the chief, has it improved based on feedback, either from the police or from the village or whatever? Have they improved on behavior, on solving problems, trying to be good business people in our community and trying to alleviate the problems? Has that been occurring in 2023? Is there a move to the positive, a continued abuse, or a move to the negative? Because I think if people are moving in the positive, we should incentivize that behavior.
Shut screen, yes. And obviously, whatever the chief says, I have been told, Mayor, it has improved. And it is definitely toward the positive.
Okay, so the legal issues is not really the point here per se, and the name and all that. So thank you for answering that, and I understand some specifics. That was for me. I just. You stepped up, sir. Did you want to say something?
No, I want to say thank you for you.
Oh, okay.
Last year, we don't get any your violation. The violation we write from 2022, we clear the 23, but the 20, we clear the 23, but the 23 and the 23 last year, we don't get one violation. One violation we don't have.
So if I hear you
And the whole
correctly,
entire year.
your position is that I understand that we did some things that we may have been wrong about. I know your lawyers will say, don't use word, but I mean, it's my words. We are trying to fix things, in our opinion, and the proof is that in 23 we did better. And we will continue to, and we're trying to clean up the SLA and the ownership, et cetera, et cetera. And there seems to be some agreement about that. So those were my questions. Thank you. If I may open it, so we can vote to the rest of the folks and see what people think and which way they're leaning and whatever, please. I don't know which way to go now. Go ahead.
Yeah. Stuart, thank you for the introduction. Just points of clarification, because I just went to our website and part of the application documents. I have an inspection result from 2023, December 06, with Greg, the code enforcement, senior code enforcement did an inspection on there. It says spelled though.
No, it's-
Was that, so it passed, because that's not part of the documents. Maybe I missed it.
Oh, it's in what I sent to you. It's what I sent to you folks. Yeah, December 20th, you passed. Follow-up examination,
Which, up and down,
2024.
'cause I didn't see it.
14th it was passed, the 6th it was failed.
Right.
So the same
Failed,
process.
Safety passed, I assume.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
So I don't see that one,
Yeah, re-inspection passed.
Okay, so that was point of clarification for me. So if it passed, I know you, I heard you said it passed, I was just a document, the
Yep.
PDF that I saw it in here, it said it fell. So in any regards, actually, I was gonna ask the same question you asked.
All right.
What kind of improvements that have been, because that's something that we always say, that I always said at the beginning, when we said, when we denied an application. It's like, you need to improve the communications between you and our police department in general, so we can fix it. So next year, next time you come in front of us, we see an improvement. So as the steward said, it has been an improvement. But besides the phone calls, because it's not just an improvement, because I remember this was before pandemic or sort of like towards pandemic wise, I was here in the meeting, we were a bunch of different businesses in here. And some of the interesting part of that conversation was, education to the bartenders, training, proper training, proper security people in there, security guards. So has that been improved? Has that staff, training to the staff itself? Because now if we allow this, we want to make sure that the errors that happened in the past, in 2021, 2022, maybe more or less, the staff is ready to do all these things. Has that improved?
Yes, well, the security is all licensed. Obviously, it has to be licensed. So they're all licensed and trained through the state approved programs. And there is communication between obviously the manager or the owner and security about who comes in and how they behave once they're in the place. As far as bartenders, as my understanding, they're all ATAP certified, which is a program that the State Liquor Authority makes bartenders take to understand the over serving, checking IDs, subsequent to the doorman checking the IDs. And again, we haven't had any underage complaints at this location.
Is that certification that you could provide for our staff to have that in our records? Is that something that we could ask for?
I don't know. I've done this a lot of years and no one's ever provided an ATAP. It's a class you take. When I was young, I worked as a bouncer. I had to take it. We all sat there and the person gave a presentation. And when we were done, they were like, okay, congratulations.
Well, usually,
I'll find out.
even like, look, we all get now in our jobs in our community here we get sexual harassment classes, sure. Even though you could be in person, it could be online. At the end of the course, at least of the ones online we do here in the village, we get a certificate that we have to mail that back to our personnel director. So I'm assuming if you took a class, they want to make sure that you actually retain some of that. So
I'm
knowledge.
more than happy that if they do, I will get that and provide it to Stuart.
No.
Well, you can support or not, or you don't want to say?
Oh, you're asking us for
Well, I
support
think
right
we
now?
have to, isn't that why they're here?
Yeah, look, at this point, based on that information, based on the reports, I know, Chief, has some concerns. But I think I want to give them a fair shot and a benefit of the doubt that they actually have improved. So I'll be in favor of, for them to get the
I would
cabaret
also-
license.
I would also say, since I'm involved, that there are issues and sometimes it's a language barrier. Stuart could always reach out to me. I'm sorry, Mr. Khan could always reach out to me and I could talk to my
Let me
client.
go through the board, and then if you have questions. Bob, are you ready to ask questions, comment, or not yet? You still looking?
I'm not ready yet.
Okay, we'll go, oh, okay, that's fine.
I'm not ready.
You're not ready, okay. Dana or Omar? Let me go to Omar. I'll go to Dana first. Omar, please. No, go ahead, you go.
I actually have the ATAC certifications here.
Oh,
He-
okay,
he
great.
pulled them up. So I will.
Just
forward
send
them
it to
on-
me.
Just send it to him.
Yes.
He wants it in the, he wants it in the.
Absolutely. I'll
It's not
send them.
mandated, but he asked for it if you're
No,
willing
no,
to do
we
it. That's-
have them right here, so.
Okay.
I'll.
Sir?
Stuart.
I'd like to hear from Karen.
Oh, you want to hear Karen first?
I actually have a question. So as village manager, I get complaints from residents that for various reasons don't go to the police. Certainly if somebody has a complaint that I think should go to the police, I recommend that they call the police. That doesn't mean that they do. But as recently as this year, I have still gotten complaints about noise, over serving based on the behavior of people coming out of the bar. And I also am still getting reports from people on Main Street that there are vans of young women going to that location. And I want to know if that's still happening.
As far as over serving, again, like I said, they're certified. I can point out to my client that he has to be a little tougher on that. As far as vans of people going to the club, I don't know what you're insinuating by that, but I can't tell people to stop going to a location. And at this point now, this is the only Spanish type Latin American establishment left in Osnet. At this point,
Establishments, many.
oh,
Yeah.
yeah,
There are many. And we have a very large population, so it goes without saying that there are. And it's not actually the issue that's being asked here. She was very specific about what she asked. If you can't answer it, don't answer it. But you had, this year is sort of like only 1 week into this year. So you've already had,
I want to be clear, 2023.
oh, okay, all right. Sir.
So when it comes to these matters, I look for progress and not perfection, and we see progress. And so I am inclined to agree with my colleague and say, yes, I would say that this would be a sign to continue in terms of progress, especially because I tend to be, even though these are not necessarily establishments that I go to personally, what I recognize is that if you have a well-organized, regulated situation where folks can go, then that is better than when these kinds of things get kind of pushed in underground, if you will, or like places that are unregulated. It's much more difficult to figure out what's happening and to have these kinds of conversations about how to improve things. And so as opposed to saying that we have 0 of these establishments, and so now the problem went away. No, it didn't go away. It just went to a place which is much harder to solve in some other ways. So I'm inclined to want to create a space where we can continue having safe entertainment for folks that also helps the community. And so with continued improvement, I'm a yes.
Dana?
Yeah, I agree. I'd like to encourage the fact that there's been improvement, and I would tend to agree.
So my opinion is that the village does get a lot of calls. It's not, we're not in court for you to dissect, well, they did this, they did that, he said this, he said that. Frankly, as long as the police do their job, they should be going to bars. We have a lot of problems with bars. There ain't a person listening to this that doesn't agree with that. People that live here are very clear that there are problems with over-serving. There are problems with increased issues of people urinating in the streets, etc. I'm not saying it's hundreds of people, but no one listening to this or our constituents are going to sit there and say the police aren't doing their job. I would say they're probably going to say they should do more of it and they should go to these bars more often, not less. Our job here is to represent our constituents and our business. I say this because, sir, if you don't keep cleaning up, the police will continue to come. They better continue to come. It's their job to do that. And you're not just responsible for the business that you run, you're responsible for what your bartenders do. If people have accidents when they leave your place because they were served too much liquor, that is the business that you've chosen to be in. Every business has its pros and cons. This is that. This is a community of many people. And the downtown and all around now has a lot of residences. It used to be businesses one place, residents somewhere else. Everybody is right on top of everybody. A lot of young families, a lot of seniors, a lot of everybody living here. It's not a city, it's a village. I am leaning towards, I see a bit of improvement. I don't see a lot, but I'm seeing an improvement. And as long as you keep improvement, but I'm actually going to say, I hope the police goes often. I'm sorry that it's taken up our resources, but that's okay with me. And that we're going to keep an eye on this because the minute they slide back, I'm not interested in, the details because this isn't the court. I'm interested in our community that we live in, that people have a decent quality of life and that the noise levels are kept where they're supposed to, and that people don't have fights and that people are held responsible for the liquor that they serve where they should be shut down. It's not that complicated. I'm leaning towards saying a yes. As I stated earlier, I'm seeing a bit of improvement, but in no way does that reflect on the fact that I'm taking anything else away. It's like they went from an F to like a D. I'd like to be like in a B or an A- category. And it is my belief that without over serving and without all the other stuff, it's still a profitable business. There is money to be made in liquor. It doesn't require people to be overserved and all the other stuff that happens. Cabaret license brings with it also a little bit of problems. So I expect the police to stay on top. I expect the village manager to keep track of the reports that she's getting, because while we actually don't normally ask, I'm going to start asking because they also get a lot of complaints. And if she continues to get complaints and documents them, that'll also be part of, we listen to the police for advice. They don't generally say yes or no unless they feel strongly about something to advise us. We will do that with the village manager, with the attorney. If people write us notes, we will keep all of that. And if it doesn't continue to improve, you will not be getting you guys will not continue to get our support, essentially. We are interested in businesses succeeding. So for that reason, I'd like to give it a shot. Did you have something to say? I see you. Oh, no, you look like you wanted to say something. All right, so everybody understands, and I'm not going to make excuses for the police doing their jobs. Oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
So, and you mentioned something about the language barrier, sometimes the difficult part. So I'm going to sort of summarize some of the stuff that we just said in Spanish. So, señor, le vamos a dar una oportunidad este año. ¿Ok? La oportunidad no tiene que usted tomarla en ventaja. Tiene que aprovecharla y seguir haciendo lo mejor posible que usted puede en su negocio. La policía no va a dejar de pasar, ir a todos los negocios, no solo al suyo. Y tenemos que asegurar que todo esté en orden. So, ahora que le damos esta oportunidad, ese año tiene que mejorar, triplicar lo que usted está haciendo. So, si usted quiere esa oportunidad que se la quiten, haga lo que estaba haciendo anteriormente. Si usted no quiere que eso lo pase, usted tiene que mejorar el negocio que usted tiene ahora. So, le digo, por favor, tome esta ventaja que nosotros le estamos dando ahora y aproveche. No la desaproveche. Y trabaje con la policía. No necesita hablar más. No necesitamos conversar. Trabaje con la policía y asegúrese que usted y ellos trabajen juntos.
Puede ir para el micrófono. Bueno, para que lo oigan, porque si no, no lo van a oír.
You have to talk in the microphone.
That's okay. I say thank you for the opportunity. I do it well.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. You got the majority vote, to go what? Oh, I'm sorry, Bob, we didn't go back to you. Bob, what do you want?
Stuff in the paper. I'm out of here.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Stephen,
Is that your son behind you? Hello.
Hey, moving right along, we have our treasurer Dale Brennan on Zoom. We had sent around, a memo that Dale prepared. This is to establish budgets for the 2024 capital projects. So with that, Treasurer Brennan.
Thank you, Manager Detour. Good evening.
You're good.
Can you hear me? Yes?
Yes.
Okay. Good evening, Mayor and Board. So we are revisiting what we had spoken about during our budget meetings in late November and the adopted budget that was adopted on December 6th, which is available online for anybody interested in looking for the 2024 capital plan. As discussed during the budget meetings, we do a mix of funding for our capital projects. I prepare an estimated fund balance amount that is also included in the adopted budget, which recognizes transfers out of fund balance, specifically for capital budget items, which we had done a portion in late December for our DRI specific projects. We did those already. And then this portion is for our departmental small vehicles and equipment and public improvement projects that we're going to fund from fund balance. So those items include the 3 police vehicles, the variant recording system for the police department. For the fire department, we have turnout gear so that we can have duplicate sets to make sure our safety standards are being adhered to, as well as AED units that were requested. DPW has 2 leaf machines. And for the water treatment plant, there's 1 hill climbing mower. And for the recreation pool, there are 13 aqua bikes that they would like to purchase for a new program for that. For public improvements, we have for the police court facility, an LED lighting conversion, sheetrock finishing and painting for the courtroom area more specifically for that one. 16 Croton Avenue, we have a rewiring project to be done. For the parks, we have the Veterans Park restroom renovation. For water, we have engineer and install the branch header and a new meter at the Indian Brook Water Treatment Plant, as well as Snowden Avenue, one main insulate and thrust blocks. And for the sewer, we have the box truck, which will contain the sewer camera scoping system, as well as other equipment for easier storage and transport. So in terms of fund balance, the amount we are allocating from the general fund is $922,285. From the water fund, it's $683,150. And from the sewer fund, it's $106,050. This was already built into my estimated fund balance for year end. That was included in the capital project. So essentially, in terms of unassigned fund balance, so that's nothing that is earmarked for anything else. Even for the portion that we did tribute to our 2024 budget, we're looking at a potential ending fund balance in general fund of $11,437,460. For the water fund, $10,876,173. And for the sewer fund, $2,862,993, which are all healthy levels, enough to handle our cash flow purposes, as well as hopefully they don't happen, but small incidental items that unfortunately do come up during the year. As well, in my memo, I was addressing bond resolutions that we would like to put forward to the board that were for larger capital projects in the plan. Total funding from debt anticipated at this time is $3,100,000. We're actually going to ask to increase that by $100,000 for specifically the police radio infrastructure project. We originally had an estimate of $650,000. In speaking with Chief Donahue, we have to address a portion of the estimate that had to be updated and included for, I believe, the desk console area, if that's correct, Chief. So that will increase the project from the $650 to the $750 range. Additionally, we have our 2024 street and sidewalks. The portion that we're funding from debt is $350,000. There is a match of CHIPS funding that comes into our paving project of $240,000. So the project as a whole and the capital budget resolution will reflect a total of $590,000 for that project. Additionally, we're doing a bond resolution for one 6-wheel dump truck with equipment for $300,000. The police records management system, which is earmarked for $500,000. For the fire department, there's fire portable radios for $350,000, and as well one rescue truck for replacement of R14 for $950,000. In terms of the vehicles, while we'll pass hopefully a bond resolution at the next legislative session, in terms of actually borrowing and then having to pay on that borrow, we will determine that in terms of the build out, and if it's not going to be built and delivered within the next 14 months or so, then we will not borrow until the following year. And that is another reason for fund balance, because it provides cash flow so that we're not paying on money that is then just sitting there, besides the fact that it's really not allowed in the world of our capital bonds. Respectfully ask if we may now include a new capital project for the fire department for the firehouse safety scope of work project for the health and safety to be included as well in my capital budget resolutions for next week.
The 15,000 that we just discussed,
Yes.
if that's a capital expense.
Yes, we can just,
But
we
not
did,
the-
we did one for when we did the firehouse consolidation study
I think that was good.
as a capital project.
I don't know, Dale, can we just do a
Yes.
general fund for this time around? Because we do have general fund money, which is only I'm gonna call it $16,000 because it's 1550, sure. So
Sure.
now, instead of creating that, can we just get that out of the way in a way?
Yeah, we could do that as well. Sure.
I mean, that's just my opinion.
No, that's why I was
Yep.
asking why. it
Yep.
should be that way.
Yeah. Well, I mean, in my estimation, if this dovetails now into an actual,
No.
bigger capital project, then it becomes part of
Oh, that's
the,
what you were
but that's-
saying,
but
yeah.
that's what, to me, that will be a 2024 conversation and not,
Mhm.
more like 25, project, not right now. So I'm not even looking at the capital projects right now. at that point.
It
I'll
was,
be looking at
it
that.
was in the
Yeah.
capital plan for 2024 though. So I
Yeah.
think the idea was just to have all the expenses in one place. So that whoever's sitting in
Right.
these 20 years from now can say,
Mm.
back in 2024, this is
That's
how
true.
much, they undertook.
Right.
Not just gonna be the capital work, it's also gonna be the.
Oh, it's
the-
gonna be combined because one thing led to another.
Yeah, got it. All
Right.
right.
But I
That
think
makes
either
sense.
way is-
Yeah, no,
is fine.
and you know what? For accounting purpose, I take
Yeah.
it back.
It's a good
So we
point.
just do that. Thanks, Manny, for the explanation.
Yeah, I just have one quick question. The 950,000 you have down for Rescue 14. Am I to understand that as a placeholder? Or is that,
Uh,
because they're still in design stage, you're not gonna see this thing until 25, 26. I don't know,
uh,
did you talk to the chiefs?
Not since this was submitted.
I mean, reality is,
And we can put a pin in it and not do it right now
right, you're not
as
gonna,
well.
you're definitely not gonna disperse this in the next 14 to 16 months, I can guarantee that.
Right. Are they going to order it within the next?
I thought they said
14.
order because there's now like a 2 to
They haven't
3
even, they haven't
year
even,
wait.
they haven't even designed it yet.
That's
That was the whole
the
conversation.
whole conversation.
But usually we get to go ahead when capital's approved.
But
Correct,
that was the whole conversation with them.
go
when
with
they
the
came in
bill.
front of us, Yeah.
right? When we do a truck, we get, after January, if it's a capital for that year. Stewart says, yep, we're good. We can contact the vendor and say, put us on the line. Right, Ben, right, Stewart? Right,
Dale, does it make a difference to you?
When you say put us on the line,
in other words, we're signing a contract and we're agreeing to a design of a truck.
okay,
Traditionally, is there any money exchange on the sign of a contract?
but you're
Correct.
committing to fund something,
Yeah,
right?
we went through this and this is what the issue we had when we couldn't commit to the truck to save because we knew it was gonna cost more. So.
Right,
Yeah,
yeah, that was with the ladder.
yeah. So,
Understood, right.
Yeah.
So, I mean, this is just a safety net for us to commit, basically is the way I'm looking at it right now.
You have
So-
to-
Right.
yeah, have it in, yeah.
So, but
Yeah.
by
Yep.
December of 24, if they agree on a design and sign a contract, we have this here to say, yeah, we're good.
And hopefully it'll be less.
I'm not sure. if I
Right.
understand the question.
The answer is
So-
yes.
Right, yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, just so I
If-
understand it.
If
Yeah.
the amount comes in and it
That's fine.
then,
Next thing.
if the
Okay.
amount comes in and it's more, you can always do a
Yeah.
follow-up bond resolution like we did with the water treatment plant. That would amend the original one if needed.
So you want to put it on for next week, right?
Yes.
You guys don't have any questions?
I don't have any questions, no.
So I do have another question. So, in regards to the increase from the police department, chief, talk to me about the desk area, the 150 additional money for this project.
So this project had many facets to it because there were portable radios, there were car radios, there were a number of different elements. And it appears at some point that one of the quotes wasn't communicated all the way up the line to the chief. And so that quote was for the 3 desk units. And it appears that it was just a lapse in communication. The chief thought that he had received all of the quotes. The sergeant working on the project thought that he had sent all the quotes and somehow that one page of quote didn't make it. So the original number proposed was lacking that element.
Okay, because I believe that was one of the questions that I had asked when you guys came in on the radios and all the improvement that was happening, and I don't want to say that it's disappointed not to have that one page missing. This an additional $150,000. Do you think that will cover everything that needs to be happening for this particular capital project?
Yes.
Okay. Are we
It
sure?
was, yes, and it was in the original specs. So, you know, in regard to the conversation we had at presentation time, it was in the original specs, but somehow that number didn't make it to the final tally.
I get that. I understand that. All right.
It's $100,000.
The 100,000? I thought you said 150. I'm sorry.
That- It went,
Okay.
yeah,
Yeah,
I apologize. Yeah, I'm.
it has
misunderstood that.
50 at the
No,
end,
that's all-
the 100,000 difference.
Okay.
yeah.
So we just say $50,000.
Just like that.
We did,
In my
your
head,
mind.
yeah.
In your mind, we did, not actually on paper.
You're just 50 grand less disappointed now.
All right, thanks.
Okay.
All right, thanks, Chippy.
Anybody else? Questions, comments? We will have this stuff, so this is for next week.
yes.
Okay, thank you, Dale.
Thanks.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you, Dale. Okay, we have our Director of Public Works here. We also have Frank Felicioto from Creighton Manning on Zoom. A few weeks ago, I guess it was maybe even a little longer than that now, Paul was here talking about our traffic calming, what we've done so far, and then some specific recommendations to make Linden Avenue one way. And because this is a bit of a bigger change than we had, you know, than just putting in a crosswalk or some signage, we asked Paul and Frank to come back to the meeting to discuss this a little further before we start plans for implementation.
Thank you, Karen. I'm just waiting for Frank to log on.
Well, it looks like he is. He
That's
has to put
he's
his
muted.
video on and unmute, sir.
Yeah, there he comes.
Hello.
Just might have fallen asleep.
Yeah, what? From this exciting meeting, somebody fell asleep? No.
Frank,
Thank you, Frank. Apologies for the wait.
Good evening, everyone.
manager's introduction. I'm just gonna build a little bit on that, and then I'm gonna turn it over to Frank from Creighton Manning. As you know, our traffic consultant. He assisted with those 3 intersection improvements that we presented last time I was in front of you all. And one of the things that came out of that was our request to explore Lower Linden as being one way between Croton Avenue and essentially Glen Street. So we left with the direction to develop that a little further.
There we go.
And see what it means. Thank you, Jamie. Develop that a little further and see what it means to traffic flow there and signage and some collateral, you know, parking benefit and traffic flow benefit. So we did just that. Before we talk about what Frank laid out with required signage and striping, et cetera, I do want to tell you that we did visit this with the police. In fact, the idea stemmed from the police study of some of the accidents there and some things that they thought might remediate some of the cause for some of those historical accidents. And we also discussed this route with the school district to see what it would mean to their bus routes, et cetera. And they have they take no exception to it at all. It doesn't impact their route at all. So at that point, we wanted to bring it back to you to show you what it would mean from a traffic flow perspective and signage. And I will turn it over to Frank now to offer you some narrative on what you're looking at now, which is a plan that he developed in his office.
Thanks, Paul. Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Good evening, Mayor and trustees. Nice to see you and Happy New Year. So as Paul explained, what you see on the screen right now, it's a lot of signage, but I promise it's a pretty simple idea. The crux here is that we're looking at one-waying Linden Avenue between Croton and Glen, so that's one way away from Croton Avenue. And so what that does is it simplifies the activity at that intersection of Croton and Linden by removing an approach. So if you're kind of coming up the hill up Linden now, you know that it's sometimes a difficult intersection to make turns at. That interaction would essentially be removed with this plan. And so you'd only be able to use Linden driving away from Croton Avenue. The portion of Linden on the south side of Croton would remain unchanged. That would still remain two-way. So really what you're seeing here is some signage that would help direct both drivers on Croton understand that they're turning onto a one-way road, as well as drivers on Glen Street and Linden, so that they don't turn the wrong way on Linden Avenue. So essentially, if you're coming into town on Dale Avenue, which would be kind of off the page to the right, and you wanted to get to Croton Avenue, the path of travel might be to use Linden Avenue, come up through here and do that. If you can kind of see the pink flow, that's really the main flow that would be eliminated as a result of this. That traffic in the future would continue on Dale, get up to the traffic signal where Dale and Croton Avenue meet, and then that turn can be facilitated there. So it's really, it's not too much of an inconvenience to that traffic. And Glen is such a short block that if you do find yourself on Glen, you know, you're not getting stuck there. You can circulate back out to Linden. So that's kind of a high level overview of the changes. That again, the signage is, there's a lot there, but a lot of it is just to communicate the new traffic pattern and then make sure that the one-way flow is conveyed to drivers on a multitude of approaches.
Frank, were you done?
And I'll just add one more thing too, is you can see along both sides of Linden here, we're looking at formalizing some of the parking with striping. There's already parking permitted on the essentially the east side of Linden, the bottom half of the road. But this enables us to create some parking on the west side of Linden, which would be the top side of the road as you're looking at this plan. So a little bit of an advantage of one-waying the street is that you can get some more on-street parking as a result of that.
I was going to point that out. That would be one collateral benefit of the two-way in an area where you do have commercial operations. Another benefit of this is that there is, if you look onto the right of the plan, you'll see it's located a new stop sign at where Glen intersects with Linden. That's not there now. There is significant traffic too that comes actually from Glen to get onto that route to get to Croton Avenue. Not only the lower part of Linden where it goes to Dale, it also comes from the area on the other side of Dale through Glen to get to Croton. And that stop sign is good to have there too, because it slows down the cars and the speed through that area before they make the left onto Linden.
All right. So I am a visual person, but not this kind of visual. For me, I'm so confused right now, and it might be just because it's after 10, but I don't even know. I mean, if I'm reading it right, there is like multiple places where there are 3 different signs. I feel like we're gonna end up on Saturday Night Live with this drawing as a skit. It's very confusing. That doesn't mean it's confusing to somebody who can visually look at maps. It's simply like I don't know what to do with this information because I can't figure out how I would follow this, how I would communicate to people living there and using it on a regular basis, what we're accomplishing. So I'm gonna just say that I can't read things like that. It's not your fault. It's not anybody's fault. For me, this doesn't help me understand anything. So I'm gonna leave it to the other 4 people, or maybe I wanted to drive there today, but I didn't have a chance. I've been in meetings all day, but I will. And maybe if I open look at the agenda and there's a link I can like actually visualize, but as soon as I see an end one-way, a one-way, 2 one-way signs, whatever the hell that is, within 3 feet of 3 more signs and across the street from 4 signs.
Yeah, maybe put it in layman's terms
I
then.
just, I find it like, for me, I
Okay.
can't read, but maybe we should wait till others comment because maybe I'm just alone in this. and
I
maybe
understand.
others are
If-
okay.
Maybe for the public benefit, then if I could just simplify it by saying you can no longer enter Croton Avenue from Lower Linden. It is strictly an exit off of Croton Avenue. And that's all it does. And all that signage there is really to reinforce that because it's such a new traffic flow. And it's also to reinforce that the properties that are on there now, where the commercial and residential building and the commercial building next to it, and the lots on the south, on the bottom of the plan view there, if you will, to make it easier, you can't make that left turn anymore to go up to Croton Avenue. Everybody that comes out of those lots now needs to go right. And if you're coming off Croton Avenue, that's the only way to get off. You can't come onto it.
If you have to get on Croton Avenue, what's your other way to do that?
Well, there's a myriad of ways you can go up. I mean, you
It's all
can,
the streets are all parallel to each other. over
right.
there.
I mean, you can head back up through and come to the neighborhood. You can, it depends on where you're going on
Right,
Croton
I
Avenue.
Okay,
There's so many options.
all right, everybody. got
Yeah,
that?
I'll go next. So first, can you explain the double one-way?
Yeah, I asked the same question.
I've
So-
never seen that before.
Frank,
So
it's-
the,
I'm gonna let Frank answer that because that's really a traffic design thing and how they lay it out on a plan, but it makes sense when he explains it. So go ahead, Frank.
all right, I'll try not to make this even more convoluted, but essentially, those signs are back to back because you have to see it from each direction. So, if you
Okay.
see the one that I just
It's one
circled on the
sign
plan,
and like back to front rather than a sign on top of one another. But you couldn't do that in the drawing to show that because we wouldn't be able to see it.
Just
Yeah,
a
no.
double-sided sign.
Mayor, you hit the nail right on the head. You can't
Yeah,
convey that
I
on a
understand.
two-dimensional plan. So they are back to back. But when you look at them on a plan in one direction, the arrows will
They're front
point
and
the
back,
same
that's all.
way.
It's your grocery list of signs. You have to buy one pointing left, you have to buy one pointing right, and you hang those.
Exactly.
on the page. That's,
And then
that's
when you sandwich them
I
together,
understand the rationale. I still think it's a little bit goofy. All signs are back to back. You could put 2 stop signs. You could, I mean, but it is the same thing because they're all back to back, right? Okay, but fine, no problem. So, I guess what would help me, I can specifically build on what the mayor said, is actually if this map were to be zoomed out a little bit, because what is less intuitive to me is the flow of traffic. So what I loved was that pink arrow to show here's where what people currently do, and then they can't do that anymore. What I would love to see is this map zoomed out to show, okay, let's say that you are at Sassy's Deli all the way at the bottom of Dale, and you want to get to the high school. Right now, you do this, and that's the pink line. You cut through and you do that. Now you have to you go up, you go around. So like that kind of visual would be helpful. In particular, because the majority of people that I have heard that have raised concerns are people that looking at this map are kind of on the right side of the map. The folks on Dale, on Glenn, et cetera. These are the kinds of people that say like, hey, this will increase traffic in my area for people that are now needing to take that because they can no longer take this. I can't say for sure, and my typical response would be like, we would need to do like a traffic study or something. But even without that level of formality, just kind of zooming out saying, here's what we think the traffic pattern will look like for most of the people that are now doing the shortcut kind of going through, they'll continue to do that or whatever. So that would be in kind of the next iteration of this, that would be most helpful to me. In general, I am in favor of this, like not majorly in favor because it's right near where I live and it is going to be more inconvenient for me, but I am in favor because I do recognize that intersection there on Croton and Linden is precarious, and the new signage there has helped. And so anything that we do there, I think is going to be good. And folks have asked, well, like, why not a traffic light or this, that, whatever. Yeah, and we talked about that last time as well. That was looked at specifically. And but this could be potentially solving the problem. I would also, I don't know how difficult it is to do something like this and then to reverse it, right? So if we said like, hey, like, let's do this and then try it for a couple of years, 5 years, whatever, to like get enough data to be able to tell, have accidents actually gone down? Because if they haven't, then maybe we keep it and try something else, or maybe we like, whatever. But it would also be helpful to know to what extent are decisions like this permanent, or can we go back?
Okay. Anybody else?
I was under the impression that you were gonna wait and see if the new signage and crosswalks in the intersection helped with the problem of accidents before you moved forward with this.
Well, we really didn't add any new traffic signage. We added pedestrian signage in an area where there was no pedestrian crossing. So they crossed there, they would have to technically, you're always supposed to yield to a pedestrian anyway in the road, regardless of where they're crossing, right? So we just kind of formalized where they're crossing and bolstered it up. But we didn't change the traffic flow, so it's not gonna, really impact what Trustee Lopez was asking. It just made it a little, we hope that it's a little safer for the many children that cross there, particularly in the school hours.
I see. I mean, I'd want to hear from people who live around there. Besides you.
We have actually heard, I've received a couple of emails, and I read them, and they're, I'll make it analogous to some time ago when we made Spring Street two-way
That's what I
versus
was
one-way.
thinking about, yeah.
That was a little more, there was a little more, advanced, study to that, which you would expect there versus here. That was really, it morphed out of the comprehensive plan where they were talking about the development of the post office lot. And if that road that goes to the post office lot was ever developed, then Spring Street should be a two-way. So that all came up out of there. It kind of just swelled up out of those studies. This here was strictly based on, we were looking out for the pedestrians, visited there with the police. They said, this is where the accidents are happening. When people are trying to pull up out of this street, they tend to inch up, and the next thing you know, they're in front of their cars and in the intersection, it crosses, makes the other car go to the other, the other way.
It's like
Yeah,
playing
it's a
chicken
nightmare.
sometimes,
Yeah.
literally. I will say that, oh, I'm sorry, Dana, are you done? I can't tell.
Well, it would be, part of the problem is that when someone is parked on the right-hand side of Croton, if you want to go right, you can't see, I don't know. I just look at all those signs and I'm like, whoa, and
I mean, the signs are a lot more pronounced here because obviously they're not in the same scale that they will be in the
Yeah.
field. Yeah, I understand what you're saying. We don't want to.
additional parking would be nice for the businesses. And I'm glad, the only way when I go out to 9A, I go this way to Dale and to 134, so that won't be impeded. It's the other way that's gonna be one way, right? Or not, you can't go. eh. I guess I haven't seen any data that tells me this has to be done. Do the police have
Again,
data?
Again, this was accident data they
Yeah.
do. I don't know if the chief's still on.
Yeah, I'm here. Yeah, I can certainly put together more formal data for you. I can tell you that this is a hot spot for motor vehicle accidents at this intersection. You see it every day. I saw it this morning on my way in. You'll see that car creeping up and trying to make the left. If there are vehicles parked, the sight lines could be better. While I understand the concern because of the amount of signage on this diagram, I understand the diagram. I think it's, I don't know why it is sometimes that the simplest ideas occur to us so late. When Lieutenant Majorana brought this suggestion to my attention, it's brilliant in its simplicity. It moves the traffic essentially one block west or one block east, depending on which alternate route you want to take. So it's really not a massive inconvenience for anyone. This is in the morning times, frequently a cut through, and in the afternoon as well, cut through to Ossining High School. People use it to try to avoid the other more regulated areas with lights, traffic lights and such. So you know, it is an area of concern for us in terms of motor vehicle accidents, and I think that's really the simplest way of solving it.
The people though who live right there aren't gonna be able to get to Croton anymore from their house there. They're gonna have to go
one
to
more
Dale.
block.
They're gonna have to go up over there.
They
These
they
are
would
not long
go one
blocks.
block north to Dale, yeah.
Okay,
to
so what
the-
do you need from us tonight?
Well, last time we left, we were, we're a little unsure if we could just go implement it and see how it worked, but then I discussed it with the manager and she said, why don't you develop it further, like they kind of requested, and bring it back. So
Right.
if we were in favor of this, we would like to purchase these signs and do a layout as striped on the drawing here and put it through a litmus test
Okay. The litmus test of what? Of what?
to see.
Get a one-way.
This is
No, I mean, trying it out.
trying it out.
Okay. So here's.
What if it
my-
doesn't work?
Yeah, here's my view on these. This is not an engineering test in high school. Like people get really, really angry when you change things that they've grown up with for 30 years. It isn't
Well
just like a
aware.
few
Well
signs.
aware, yeah.
So I'd like a communication plan so the people in that neighborhood, and not using that diagram, but using something that says, here is the reason. Everybody know, I mean, today, this poor kid like was afraid to cross that street because cars were going this way and now everybody's slowing down to let him cross. He's afraid to cross, so all four of us, and we're all standing there looking at each other going, so who's gonna go now? It was the worst case scenario, but I do have to say your stop signs really are working. You may not consider it a way to slow traffic, but I actually think it's made people really aware. That's a tough intersection, especially people from out of town. Those of us that know, we know it's a blind spot, it's this, it's that. So I need like a communication plan to the people living in that neighborhood. We can't just like change. It's not just let's put a new stop sign in a nice, quiet residential neighborhood. 5 people will call us angry. Why did you do it? Nobody told me. This is like a sort of a big deal. There's commercial, early morning, school buses, rainy day, blind spots. It's like a thing. So really a communication plan, which is not an engineering thing. It's a human thing. Not that engineers aren't human, but you know what I'm saying. We need like to communicate that we're making change. Why? Simple. Too many accidents, hotspot. This is a good solution. Worst case scenario is that there will be people that have to go 1 block equals 100 yards. It's like a city block. It's probably smaller than a city block. Like that kind of comparison. And then we do this. We could do it now. We could do it when the weather is better so that, you know,
Yeah,
people
well,
have time to get used to things. I think the communication about this is important, even if it's only 100 yards of a road. We talk about the Route 9 thing, huge project, 20 years in the making. As the manager always says, it's 1 mile out of something that is like from, I guess, the city up to Rhinebeck. I don't know, it must go even more north, maybe up to, I don't know how far Route 9 goes. But it's 1 mile. That's not a big deal, but it is a big deal, right? So communication is super important. A diagram that shows, very simple one, and really why we're doing it in the first place, numerous complaints, accidents, blah, blah, blah. etc. I mean, you don't want to take 6 months doing that, but
Well,
you know,
the funny thing is, it's right around 6 months. We talked about it internally a little
okay.
bit in this communication. It would be easier and maybe more prudent to roll it out after school's over, so it could be.
yeah,
people can
because I
get
think the
used-
bus drivers won't be used to it either.
Well,
And
the
it's better to
school
do
bus-
it in the summer.
The school, at least according to the transportation director in the school, that's not a route right now. They don't make that, they don't come up that way.
They don't go up.
They do go, no, they don't go
Linden.
down, up Linden.
Really? Interesting.
But they do go down Linden. The other thing is, there's a little less traffic in the summer, and it gives us a chance to do what we did on Spring Street, when we did the 2-way, was that we put a sign there, which I think is really the
Like a
best.
temporary
a
sign.
Temporary sign saying coming June 2024, 1-way Linden or something to that.
Yeah, and
extent.
explaining why. Okay.
Because, you know, you could do all the
So
PRs
6
that you
months
want, but it's really the people that drive there, and a lot of them don't even live in Austin, so the outreach is, you know, it has to be really spot. You know, do I go on this road a lot? Look at this sign and, you know, used to it, and then one day the signs get unveiled and you're doing it.
So really, the only thing we should be thinking of tonight or tomorrow, whatever, is whether it's worth all of this hotspot. If we say yes to that individual, like if I go home, I go tomorrow, the next day I look at this area and go, it's worth it. Once you get over that hurdle, you pretty much should be doing this, because this is, as the chief said, a straightforward solution. If you don't agree that this is the right time, we just redid the pedestrian, maybe that's good enough. I don't want to cause any problems or change. I don't think it's worth the cost benefit. It's just not worth it, even though it's a nice idea, but it's not a must have, then it's a no. So I think for me, I'd like to go look at the area. Is there a rush for tonight's decision?
No,
I
in
mean, you
fact,
don't have to come back to us. You just showed us what there is to see. So is there a rush for tonight or?
no, and I don't think there's really any formal resolution per se. So if you conveyed your druthers to the manager, I'm sure I can implement it whenever.
The only resolution, I apologize, Ken. If you're adding the parking on the west side, that will be something Karen can do, but I assume either Matty, that'll be a new parking zone, however, we'll work it out.
Oh, yeah.
But it will require just to add to
More
our
time.
schedule of parking so that the police will know that that is now a marked.
How many
parking
more
area.
parking spots did you estimate?
I think there was 4 or 5 spots that we thought we could develop on the west side of.
And somebody's gonna
Overlay.
say whether they want it overnight or how they, because it's also commercial area there, so.
It's on street, so.
Yes, somebody will.
Street.
The only consideration that I have for the parking on the west side, on the top of the map there is people that pull out from the parking garage.
Yeah.
That can sometimes cause an issue. Now, of course, now it's two-way, but regardless, what I've seen is people are going up toward Croton, people pull out from that parking lot, and that's where there are, and I've seen an accident on in the morning. So if there's parking there, then we make it more difficult for the person pulling out or the person driving to see that that's gonna be happening. So that would be my only consideration.
Except wouldn't they be making a right, no, on a one-way.
Because they're parking spaces. So whether the person is coming north or south or whatever on Linden, it's just that there will be less visibility as somebody's pulling out of the parking garage and then somebody's driving out the street.
Distance between the entrance.
For sure.
Spaces.
We
All
get
right,
it.
so I'm sure they'll
Right, we
figure
get
it
it.
out, but you
So-
think it's 4 or 5 spaces, basically, that's the number.
Yes.
Okay.
At least now they don't
They-
have to look one way.
So basically, Frank, thank you for coming, and Paul, I understand the presentation. I think it's a good idea. But to dovetail off of something the mayor said with the pedestrian crosswalks. You know, we talked about it, Mayor Casada, oh boy. Trustee Casada brought it up the last time we talked about crosswalks, about the flashing yellow light signs. That is a dark intersection at night. And, you know, I know what you said, it's really not recommended. At this point, I'd like to see them. Because it definitely helps, and even there and Elizabeth Street. Because it's like they're playing Frogger and you got a kid trying to cross the street. Now, it's on them to push the button to flash the lights, but you know, Pavlov's dog, Pavlov's dog, how is it?
Pablo.
Yeah, well,
Learns.
I'm gonna, I don't know if we
Remember
really,
something.
we didn't dive too deeply into this. I think last time we were talking about
Right.
this, I might have talked about it offline, so I'd reiterate some of that here. And then Frank, if you could jump in with actually what you do via qualifying the LED strobes on a crosswalk. But what I had talked about with the trustees previous is, you know, yes, it could be it could assist someone crossing the road, but the flip side of that is if they don't hit if drivers get too accustomed to see it, and if they don't see the strobes, but someone still walks into the intersection, you have the double-edged sword. And the other thing is, you know, we did put all high intensity
Yeah,
pedestrian signage there. The signage, that's all MUTCD required. That's why there's the reflectivity on all these signs with LED streetlights now. It's
Yes, I agree with that, and it is bright. And
it's amazingly bright.
it's amazingly bright, but the person crossing isn't bright.
I get that.
I want to draw attention to the drivers. Yeah, they know the crosswalk's there, that someone's going through that crosswalk, because at night, someone with dark clothes, you can't see them. I've witnessed it. It's dark there.
Well, the whole road is.
Frank, you want to build on that a little bit?
Yeah, I think to just there are some engineering criteria too that we look at, having to do with the sheer number of pedestrians that use a certain crosswalk before you start putting those more advanced crossing lights and infrastructure in, for two reasons. One, to provide a guideline, a minimum level, just so that it doesn't become a slippery slope where you're putting them in everywhere. But I think more important than that too is you want there to be a clear expectation. And I think I generally err on the side of more pedestrian safety than not, obviously. So it is a decision that certainly there's enough engineering judgment that lies with the village. And if you wanted to put them in, I don't think there's anything stopping you. But I think it is prudent to see how the new installation works, get a feel for that, maybe get some hard data, get some additional counts, and then reevaluate if there was any doubt about putting them in now. So you could always do a wait and see, take a look at how it's performing and analyze it, and then take the next step if you so choose.
Okay. Thank you.
Nice.
You have more?
I haven't answered any questions. So just pretty much point of clarification, sure, whatever the decision we make, it's not really into our purview to make these changes. It's actually the village manager's purview to make those changes. I want to thank her that she actually chose to do that. There are some other changes that come with it that we can do, obviously the parking and all the stuff that we can do after. So if she wants to do it, she can do it tomorrow. She doesn't have to wait 6 months. In regards to the signage, I mean, I'm sure everybody's been in New York City. My concern is a little bit about that portion of that, too much sign, how much signage do we have? Because it seems excessive on that one. So I'll let you guys figure that out. I think it's just too much, even though I get that is a one side, double-sided sign. I understand that, but I think it's gonna be, try to keep it simple if possible.
I think they got that message.
Yeah. So the other one, in regards to the intersection, all the reasons why we're doing what we're doing here, is to address this very, very complex portion that we have in our village. We have many complaints. At some point in time, all this better than a lot of us, they wanted to put a traffic light in there. That was the suggestions, put a traffic light. Why? Because we've seen accidents, because we've seen all this stuff. So doing the crosswalks, which is helpful, making these changes in a one-way, which is helpful. For me, I still feel that we should be putting these flashing lights on the cross sections portions. I don't see why not. I won't feel right. It just doesn't feel right for me to wait for us to get data. We got the data. We know it's an intersection that has problems, that is being having problems. I don't see why we have to keep waiting. But again, that's just my opinion.
And just to dovetail, we don't need another study on crosswalks. We just need to implement it. That's my opinion.
Quick question, what is the traffic light response when someone says, like, why not a traffic light? What is it?
Those are light like 100.
Yeah, but
feet
that's
away.
not to say that you couldn't petition the state to put a signal there. But because there's a light so
Oh,
close.
right, they're gonna back up right into one light into the other.
Yeah.
Part of the-
And I hate it. There's another one up the road that does that and you get stuck in the middle there.
But that's what we have right now in Highland Avenue. We have a church that right literally between that and this one here. So this,
Who wants to
but it's not part of the study. It's not even part of our study right now. So I'm not sure what we're talking about at that point. So.
All right, so
Part of the beauty of the one-way plan is that it's a state road at the intersection. Just off is obviously the village. It's solving a problem on a state road without having to involve the state.
Well, I think that was the idea. Okay, we don't need to decide right now. I think we have a sense of where the board is going on this, I think.
The manager has taken this all under advisement and included you all in this discussion so that we have a group understanding, and certainly you'll be asked probably first before I will when we implement the
Yeah.
change. So we're gonna talk about this. We'll talk about some of the other things, the lighting. I think that we can work out all those details. I appreciate all the thoughtful input, but we won't be acting on this because Paul said it's better to wait 6 months, so.
Well.
So we'll wait. It's
I
better.
think it's the school,
better.
it's the weather.
Yeah, no.
We just did this, let this sit a little bit. It's fine.
Yeah,
Okay,
no,
I think
we're good.
repeating ourselves.
But making a sign and doing the PR, if we decide to move forward.
Yeah,
it's
we
something
have
that-
some lead time,
Well,
and we will keep you guys
communication,
involved
yes.
in those discussions
Yes,
too.
because we'll get the
Big
call.
time. I just have one, not related to this
You don't-
particular intersection, but if you can take a look at Spring Street again. You know, the one that we removed one of the parking spaces for the little store. Between Academy and Broad Avenue.
Academy
There's-
and Broad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this one that we striped off, we removed that because it was right next to a driveway.
Yeah.
So the temporary posts that you put on the road, they're totally gone now. And it's very hard to see
Okay.
that
The
there's
te-
no
this
parking
right-
allowed anymore.
Yeah,
So if we can address that,
Yeah.
I'm not sure if we're gonna solve that problem there,
Yeah.
but hopefully will help a little bit again.
Sure.
Okay,
all right, thank you so much. We're sorry we kept you so long, but thank you for all the great work, the very detailed diagrams, and please have a pleasant evening and get some rest.
Thanks, Frank. I'll call you tomorrow.
Thank you all. Have a good evening.
All right, we have one more brief
One
item.
of the late addition was a cabaret license application by Hudson Valley Books for Humanity. Theirs is an application for cabaret just to serve soft drinks. So there's no New York State liquor license, there's no method of operation.
you need a cabaret license to serve
Yes.
soft drinks?
Well, because they're doing a cabaret. Yeah.
So, yeah.
So they want to operate Monday through Sunday. Hours of operation would be Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, excuse me, let's make it easy. Sunday through Thursday, 4 PM to 10 PM. Friday, Saturday, 4 PM to 11 PM. They have received a pass from the building department, no issue from finance. I know that Chief, thank you for getting this done today. It indicates new calls of significance with regard to this particular location. So it would be requested that to have a resolution authorizing the issuance of a cabaret license for Hudson Valley Books for Humanity, again, for a cabaret that serves only soft drinks.
I don't even know you needed one, so learn something new every day. Anybody have any comments, questions, whatever?
I was just gonna ask one question. Was there any calls at all?
Well, from the proprietor out. Going in, no.
Well, let me say this.
Just
Since 2021, I've got, what I've got here is 6 calls, realized that they have not been there since 2021, I believe. But we've got,
No, they haven't.
okay, so you got 1 premises check, you got 3 alarms, 1
Okay.
report of a suspicious person that was conditioned was unfounded, and 1 report.
Was that you?
5 band books.
Somebody came in
I
to
think
ban
that we're
books.
okay with it. I didn't even know. I just
Yeah.
learned
So
something
that's
new today.
Yeah, no.
Okay.
that's fine.
Good. There's no exec session tonight. There's no. You were, okay. All right, so,
On a matter of public safety.
interesting, a new title, okay.
All right.
So let's get a motion to adjourn for a matter.
Second.
And it's for a matter of public safety, ladies and gentlemen, thank you. It is 5 minutes to 11. We will see you for legislative session next Wednesday. Have a lovely evening.